Hello, 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 and greetings, fellow adventurers of Vera. Welcome to Tavern Talk at the Golden Feather Tavern. We are Vertec and Chibi, keepers of this fine establishment. The Golden Feather Tavern is open to all travelers to come and share their thoughts on the inner workings of Vera over a nice tankard of ale, mead, hot chocolate, or any other delicious beverage of choice. So, raise your glass and pull up a chair as we delve into tonight's discussions. Today is the 15th of April, 2025, and we're on episode 042. That's right, 42. The answer to life, the universe, and everything. We just don't know the question, right? Or do we? The question for tonight is, does size matter?
Oh my god.
As we talk about the stat changes in Vera and what they mean in the end.
That's all Vertec, by the way.
I don't know what you're talking about. It was a joint discussion. We debated. It was put up for a vote, and it was voted in appropriately.
Right.
So to start us off, we do have one guest with us here tonight. That is Vladis, and let me actually change something in Discord so you can actually see his name on the screen.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Hi guys.
Hi. How's it going?
It's going. It's going. Things
There
have
we
been
are.
slightly hectic, but I think that's any parent, right? Like your life is always slightly hectic. You're never just chill.
Right.
It's very true. But that's what you signed up for, right? You were like, yes,
Yep.
I would like to introduce some chaos into my life.
Yeah. And I'm going to be summoning even more chaos this summer. So
Nice.
More
it'll be even
chaos.
more chaos. So it'll be.
Should we just call
crazy.
them your little chaos gremlins?
Yes, I do call it my gremlin. That's true.
Nice, nice.
They're
Oh
adorable.
my goodness. Oi, so what else do we have on tap tonight there, Chibi? Anything crazy and interesting outside of just the general idea of stat changes?
Well, you said you wanted to chat about stat changes, so I brought the stat changes conversation. I looked around on the forums and I grabbed a bunch of threads talking about TTK and the adjustments and how the adjustments affect PvP, as well as might my luck have it Vladis's video on enchanting and how that affects your gear and how to make enchanting meaningful. I was just watching that yesterday while I was at the gym doing my treadmill, and I thought that was a really good conversation piece to discuss. And then from there we can probably talk about weapons and or skill trees, which are also a couple of other random tidbits that seemed kind of related that came from the community as well. So overall, if you guys have been living under a rock as of this last Thursday, all throughout this weekend, they approved the PTR changes that Vertec and I saw on last week, that we had for our last Tavern Talk, and I was actually shocked by that. I wasn't sure it was gonna go live right away. What about you guys?
Yeah, I didn't expect it to go directly from PTR to live in like a day.
Yeah.
The
changes?
TTK stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I thought that was gonna bake for a month. I'm
Yeah.
being totally honest. I did not
Same.
even think they would do it, because I thought it'd be like the Rogue, right? When we tried the Rogue, the Rogue still needed like a couple of more weeks. I thought that was gonna be the same thing with TTK. So it was kind of wild to me that they put it out so early.
I mean, often people have been discussing, like, oh, this is on PTR, are we gonna see it this week? And I mean, sometimes I've seen it be on PTR and then following like live patch it goes on there, but sometimes, like you said with the Rogue, we've seen it a little bit. And Theogen's asked if we've talked about sea combat much yet. I haven't actually experienced the sea combat too much, so I'm gonna say a no on that one for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say we had some people chat about it when they were on last, but there wasn't a whole lot of chatter about it.
Yeah,
mainly because we didn't really experience it yet. I talked about how I had experience in making a lot of timber for you. And that was about the extent of my experience so far.
What about you, Vladis? Have you experienced the sea combat yet?
very minimally. Only during the PTR, I haven't done anything on live. My whole thing with that is like I wanted it to be more of an ocean experience, the way they discussed it in the past, and it doesn't seem like that. It seems more like a biome thing. Like I wanted to actually be out in the ocean, and I feel like we're just out in the tropics. So
I feel like
it's
that's coming though.
yeah, no, 100%. And
Yeah.
again, naval content to me was never the excite. I know that was the thing that a lot of people are excited for.
Right.
For me, I am just like optimistic about that system, but I wasn't like chomping at the bit. And I think I'm more anxious to see the Mariner class system, and like, you know, how the potion launcher is going to be, how combat is going to be, how PvE stuff is going to be, like the Kraken and World Boss stuff. Like that to me is really exciting, but I don't know. I don't have a particular like bar set or anything like that. To me, I was just kind of freaked out that we got naval at all. Like that was kind of wild, you know, so.
That was actually one of the topic feedbacks that Vertec and I heard from the community was like, there's no way they're putting naval in before phase 3. That's a phase 3 thing. And here it is.
Yeah. I thought that was a next year thing, to be honest.
Yeah. And I mean, what are your thoughts, Vertec, with the little bit of testing that you did?
Yeah, the only testing on naval stuff that I've done is literally just making timber for Theo to make
really?
Make some ships. Yep. I haven't even stepped on a boat.
Oh my gosh. I was telling our guildies, and I think I explained this story. Erwin's in chat, so I have to do it. But Erwin and I were testing naval the day it went live on the live servers on PTR, and we found a little patch in the ocean by one of the islands where the boat just sunk straight to the bottom, and you couldn't get it to go back up, even like pushing spacebar or anything. But we weren't drowning, and so we were trying to figure it out, and Erwin got Planendorf over. We got off the boat, and Erwin had found a space where he could start drowning, and then I went over there, and then I started drowning, and I went back over by the boat, and that went away. And I'm telling Erwin, because we're in VC together, I was like, what happens if you drive the boat over there? And so he tried it. He's like, that's what I'm gonna do. So he drove it over, and it plopped up to the top of the water. And Planendorf was like, that was the best like feedback video I've ever seen to like reproduce a bug that he had seen. And we were like, what happens if like we go back? Will we go back down? So he tried it a couple of times. I forgot if it was the second or the third time, but Planendorf had left us by that point after reproducing the bug. But we went to push it forward to go back up, and it shot us into the air, teleported Erwin and myself all the way to the nearest harbor, and his boat disappeared.
Got launched.
That's wild.
We got launched into the sky, and I ended up grabbing a boat from him, and I had to like put out a new boat because he couldn't deploy a new one. And we ended up finding his boat later by that same island. And fast forward a few hours, he ended up being called away for a work thing. And I tried it, and the same thing happened to me. I got like launched into the air, but when I was swimming back out to that area, because I was like, oh well, we found his boat, maybe I'll find my boat. As I'm swimming there, I just see my boat falling from the sky and lands in the water in front of me.
So what I'm hearing is, forget potion launchers, we got people launchers.
Yes, and boat launchers.
Nice.
But
nice.
I will say it as an early iteration, it is much nicer to drive a boat than it is to drive a caravan. I think it's just better. The caravan just feels so janky still. And when I was on the boat, I'm like, oh, this feels so much more intuitive than driving a caravan.
I would agree, but the only thing for me with the boat that I don't like is if you just try to do a U-turn, it like pivots on the bow of the boat. Like it doesn't, it's not the middle of the boat, it's the back of the boat, and the rest of the boat is just like on this one axis.
I mean, to be fair, try to do a U-turn on a caravan.
Yeah.
That's, you know, it's, I don't know. Like I think the caravan mount system is going to get a lot better, but it was surprising to me of just how, you know, good boats actually felt to drive. I thought it was going to
Yeah.
be really janky, to be honest. I thought I was going to feel bad, but it didn't. It actually felt pretty damn good.
Yeah, I would agree. It felt pretty nice. I'm looking forward to if they're gonna do an update with the sails so that the sails move depending on the direction you're going, or like they incorporate the wind with them, the way that like Black Flag has, and I think Sea of Thieves has it as well. So I don't know. I thought that was really neat though, just for an early iteration. And as you said, was surprised it was already in. Hello, Stealth POV. Welcome
Hey
in.
there, Stealth.
So why that all matters is because currently the tropic area is the open world PvP no man's land lawless zone area. I don't know if it's going to stay that way or what, because it is primarily ocean out there. But people have a lot of feelings about the newest TTK and stat changes. One of the biggest and loudest ones that I heard of was that they don't like the new stat numbers. They feel like it's too large. And in general, on the one hand, it's like, these are too large. This is unrealistic. I can't relate to this. On the other hand, it's, this is great because now they can fine tune where the problem is coming from. And I don't know. I don't know how to feel myself with this. I don't even look at the numbers. I look at how long it takes me to kill something and how that feels for me. If it feels good or if it doesn't feel good. I've avoided this conversation like TTK, PvP, etc. because I'm not very good at like talking about combat in this way because it's not something that I really focus on. If the combat feels good, I don't give it a second thought, to be honest. But I kind of want to hear what people have to say about the changes. But what are your overall first impressions of these stat changes? Do you like them? Do you not like them? Were you able to tell that there was a difference at all?
You want to go, Vertec?
Oh, guess
Or you want me
first.
to go?
Guess first.
Okay. So I did a lot of stuff on the PTR. I haven't really engaged too much. I like a very slightly. I think I had like 2 duels basically like on live. And for me, numerically, I mean, I think everybody hates the numbers, but that to me is the irrelevant part. The more relevant part is, do these changes do what it set out to do, right? Is it elongating fights? And, you know, when I was dueling on the fighter on the PTR, because that was like originally my main, like I was surprised at how long the battle was between me and a bard. Like I was like, wow, this feels a hell of a lot better, and I don't feel like I'm just keeling over and dying in, you know, a couple of seconds. And then I actually dueled a mage, and the mage was, you know, quicker than the bard, but I wasn't getting blasted in, you know, 2 seconds or 1 second and dying, you know. And on live though, where people actually have like epic and legendary gear, right now people are I would say still killing people pretty quickly, but not as quickly, of course, as it was before. So it is a good, it's a lean in the better direction, but of course there still needs to be tweaks. There still needs to be certain classes to be looked at, because now that these changes are implemented, now is asking the question again, is this ability overpowered? Is this class overpowered? You know, which abilities are needing to be nerfed? Because people didn't want nerfs before because TTK was still a problem. But now that we're getting, you know, TTK already in the game, and now we're going to start fine-tuning that, you're going to start seeing certain abilities or certain classes being nerfed due to, you know, them just being a little bit more overpowered than they should be.
Yeah, I would kind of agree. I haven't gotten a lot of testing done with it so far. I had you know, it was an hour and a half on the PTR, and I 1v1 Chibi, and I 1v1'd, but what that didn't go too well because both of us have abilities that were healing and protecting the other. It's kind of awkward. She'd hit me with Judgment, and it would both heal and hurt me, but it would heal me more than it would hurt. So
it would like out heal the hurt that I was doing.
Yeah. It was like he heals for 2,000, damages for 1. Awesome.
Which we figured out what that was. There's a new setting that they iterated in, where I forgot what it was exactly, the verbiage, but we had you untick it last night on stream.
Yeah.
And it essentially, there's just under the PvP area where you can like do beneficial and harmful against flagged or non-flagged people. There's a new one at the very bottom that is automatically by default checked. You have to uncheck that. Otherwise, it will heal people that you're trying to hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting, but then fought against 2 rangers, and that's the first time I've ever like solo like 1v1 a ranger, and man, they need some help. They need some love, mobility and or damage, because as a tank I have 2 mobility skills. One of them is a damaging skill and it doesn't reach terribly far, but I was still able to basically keep up with all of their movement, trying to evade and whatnot.
Yeah.
So they definitely need some help. I was surprised by the what was it, aerial bombardment, how low to the ground it cruises over and how slow it goes, so melee can still smack people. But yeah, it felt better though, because I know I've been melted by a ranger before. I just hadn't gone 1v1 versus them. I see myself getting sniped and shot from afar as I'm trying to approach a group. So I lasted longer there. I did a little bit of PvE testing with some mobs I know I used to have some troubles with. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that's awkward is I went up to Grave Peak and there were the dogs at the front. Mm-hmm. And I tried to go up against them before in basically the same gear on previous to the stat change. And it would be about 30 seconds of trying to take them down, and then I'd have to run away because they're hurting me too much and I don't hurt them enough, and it doesn't end, but my life gets lower than theirs does, so I got to take off. Yeah. I think I was there for about a minute and a half this time around, so it was the exact same outcome. I still had to run away because I couldn't kill it quickly enough before it got me down, but it lasted a lot longer. So I mean, that's at least something. Same outcome, but it took longer to get there.
Ziba Tango in our chat, first time chatter, hello and welcome in. Thank you so much for the follow, by the way. It says, as a tank, I still melt people, but can't really do 3v1s anymore because of mana issues now. Also, PvE TTK is much longer for me, even after farming the new gear to replace old useless gear. Sucks replacing Legos with uncommons and rares. I think that's, I mean, good feedback for you because you're a tank, so you can probably relate to that a little bit more. And then over on YouTube, Eric says, love the changes. Only people that hate them are PvP sweats who can no longer one-hit people. Which I'm going to have to say, at least until I get a chance to test it out again, I didn't really notice a difference, but I didn't get a chance to get on this last weekend. I was quite busy. So my goal is to try it out on Thursday and see how it feels for me to do some PvE, maybe a little bit of PvP, if there's even anybody on, because Vertec found that quite dead over on Linus last night. But overall, do we like the idea? Because that's something I've heard from across the community, is that PvE is slowed down due to the stat changes. Do we like that? Do we not like that?
I don't mind it.
It's something I'm willing to accept, to have balanced PvP. I still think they should just do a universal flat. Like once they've expanded the numbers, they've added an extra digit, and they've made it more granular for adjustments and whatnot. Mm-hmm. That's a good step forward. Now they can micro adjust changes and things like enchanting and whatnot. They can make things more meaningful, yet still have an actual spectrum instead of like a stairwell that climbs up in like very noticeable individual increases with all the stuff. But so they've gotten that part down, and once they actually fine tune and they do some balancing between classes, I think I would actually like it more if they just put like a 30, 40, even 50% damage debuff on player versus player and called it a day with that. Like I know somebody was in our chat previously and we were talking about this, and they were saying that it's it's more about scaling. It's got to be scaling. It's poor scaling, and they kept repeating that. But
Yeah.
I think honestly, just to make it so that PvE feels a certain way and PvP isn't quite as fast or whatnot, like there needs to be some kind of an adjustment. Otherwise, you're gonna end up facing, a PvP opponent that's gonna have like 4,000 health, but then a trash mob is gonna have 20,000 health, and it's gonna be just a giant difference like that. To get the same kind of feel for both, like why not let them both keep the same health? You just reduce the damage that you're outputting.
Yeah. I actually have a question for both of you because so I know they made the numbers bigger, but what did they actually change? Because I can't figure it out. Like,
I think they just reformulated the base stats. So the formula that I used to be before is different now. So like what constituted as 1 intellect before is different than what 1 intellect means now. Like that's basically what they did. And I had a feeling that that's what they were going to do. I had a feeling like, me, Zyback, a lot of content creator or just people in general are just asking for a blanket, 50% nerf in PvP. Like if you flag as a combatant, you just do 50% less damage towards PvP. And I thought that would have been a better way to start this conversation, just to see how that feels for PvP. But then because of course we have bards and healers, you would also need to do like a 25 or even 35% nerf to healing as a combatant on top, like with that change. So I think they were just thinking, instead of just doing all of that, let's just rebalance and reformulate the stats like at a base level. And so that's exactly what they did. And I think it's just going to be really, I think it's going to take, like what we're talking about in PTR, and we thought that this was kind of quick how they did this. I think they needed to put this out probably on a mass scale to truly get the data, and also just the larger player base to see what they like, what they don't like, how do they feel about their class. Go to the forums, go on Discord. Yeah, and just because again, this is all testing anyway. Like, doesn't matter if it's on PTR or the Alpha 2, Phase 2, or Phase 3. Like, this is all testing. So if we can do this for the next couple of months, like they'll be able to really get better data than just keeping it on the PTR for a month. So I guess I understand why they did that.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry.
Quick
Steven aside.
Kind of put something out just to support that. Yeah, Steven kind of put something out saying the same thing. Like we're testing here. There's going to be iterations, obviously, but let us know your feedback so we know how it feels on mass outside of just the cold numbers. Oh, what were you saying?
I was just gonna say my quick aside is Steven put out this thread while you talked, but there's the thread.
Oh, did he?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead, Vertek.
He put out that Giga thread on gear and stat tuning out on Reddit.
Oh, I didn't see that. Let me see.
I just put the link in the chat.
Oh.
You're the one that put this in, so go for it.
Oh, no, sorry. I thought you were looking to talk about it. I wasn't trying to stomp on you. I was just agreeing, yeah, that's right.
I was just trying to say, as a quick aside, since Vladis mentioned, feedback, that Steven made a Giga thread for feedback, and then was going to let you go.
Oh, I mean, that's basically all it really is. He's putting out the survey for everyone to fill out and what kind of feedback they're looking for, suggestions to go out and how to test things. And again, a reminder at the end that this is an ongoing iteration. And the one statement I love is, AKA, don't lose your shit. Instead, help us refine the results.
Yeah.
Less than 3, Steven.
People really are, though. Like I was looking through the forums, and I'm not going to say any names because it's not proper, but I saw somebody like literally posting multiple forum feedback things like, what is this? This is horrible. Revert this now, etc., etc., etc. So like, yeah, but that's the whole point of alpha, is testing this stuff and seeing how it feels so that we can get to a good place before we go live with everything. So that way there's not these dramatic stat changes live. ZBI Tango says, thanks for the welcome. It seems you play on the same server as well. Yeah, we're on Lineth. I think Vladis, you were on Vyra. Also, another thing that devs changed, added was DR, so diminishing returns, and said nothing about it. Now values or anything, new values or anything. We have had to learn new stats and when DR takes effect by how much. And by how much, just more to learn and balance builds around, but they might change it all. So we'll see. Yeah, exactly. Which Vertec, you were talking about how diminishing returns affects you as a tank. And I'm sure, Vladis, you can relate. But has that felt like it changed anything for you at all? Has it increased? Has it decreased from what you could feel the little bit that you tested your tank yesterday?
Myself, no, I haven't had a chance to really test out and feel out the diminishing returns. I just kind of put on everything and went out and about and tried to bump into things and do stuff. Nobody was doing anything where they needed a tank in a group PvE wise, and I didn't bump into any caravans or anything when I was running around, so I couldn't just like run up and be like, hey, I'm not going to take down your caravan, I just want to duel.
Yeah, let me fight you, please.
Let me fight you.
Don't call feedback. Don't call support. Don't call backup.
I'll help you escort this caravan if you let me launch one and we can duel after we get to your destination or something like that. But I didn't even see any caravans as I was running around. So
yeah, I think I heard you say, "Oh, now might be a good time to do a caravan."
Yeah.
So, Sanic Explosion actually had his feedback, and it's the top one, I guess, because it's sorted by the best for me on Reddit. And his is actually talking about gear and saying that they are hoping there's some plan to make the heavy, medium, light gear system more involved, because currently the main difference is on the defensive axis. However, this feels a bit weird as most archetypes outside of tank simply aren't too concerned about their defenses and will just go with whatever type provides them the most power. And I can definitely relate to this because when I was doing the siege testing on PTR, when they added rogues in, I went more of a medium, a little bit of light, and I felt like I was able to withstand against the rogue attacks a bit more in anticipation for that change. Hello, Jamba. Yes, safe driving, and hope you enjoy the listen. Theo said, I was running around and restocking the markets in each node last night. Fair.
Nice. And which one was this, by the way? Because I'm looking through the ones we have there, and it's the Giga thread. I'm still on that one. Okay, gotcha.
It's the top comment on it. And the next thing he says is also oftentimes you'll encounter both physical damage and magical damage at the same time, no matter whether it's PvP, PvE, or PvX. This tends to lead people. This leads people that do care about their defenses towards min-maxing, though, mixing and matching multiple different armor types. I find this antithetical towards the heavy, medium, light system. I'm also hoping the set bonuses will become more interesting. There's currently around 2 biomes worth of gear, with 16 or more biomes of gear to be made in the future. If gear just has the current stat patterns and current set bonus philosophy, I feel like it will be very hard to create unique gear going forward.
Yeah.
And I'll let you guys read the rest of that stuff yourself, but I just thought that was a good point.
Well,
yes.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, yeah, so guess first if you wanted to go there, Vladis.
Oh, okay. So I really like this comment because this kind of just highlights the iterative process of back and forth between community to development, right? And this is an iterative process, meaning that the devs put out something, players decide if they like it or don't like it. They, say their concern, and then the devs either make the choice of being like, well, we really like this system as it is, just sorry, like, this gear system may not be free, or they could be like, well, we agree, like, what can we do to make this this gearing system better? And I think that's the route they're going to go. I think the devs probably agree that this is very a basic, foundational, super formulaic version of gear and Ashes of Creation. I think I really want them to lean more into defensives, because I feel like defenses are kind of weak outside of tank. Like if I'm a fighter or if I'm a rogue or whatever, like I don't really feel when I put on all light armor that I can send up against a mage, like any better. You know what I mean? Like, so I really want them to kind of really go into like, wow, like, you know, shit, this person, like if you see like a rogue and they're all in, you know, heavy gear and I'm a fighter, like I feel that, like, damn, you know, because some rogues are either semi squishy or really squishy, depending if they're wearing medium or light armor. But, you know, I want to feel that. And I don't think currently you don't. And I think it's because of comments like these is as to why we are probably going to get more unique set bonuses, probably better defensive stats, probably even for tank too. But I'm just talking about defensive stats as a whole. I still think needs to be a little bit adjusted. But yeah, I completely agree. Like set bonuses need to be more interesting. We need to have more gear, and please add more dagger recipes on the servers.
Yeah.
I agree with this post here. When it comes to the heavy, medium, light, like the set bonuses need to, and Nice put out actually a video about this with his application to be a lead combat designer, I think it was.
Oh, nice.
I think he was joking around, but he made a whole video about you know, the stats and how TTK is really hurting and ways he would go about fixing it. But he framed it in the angle of, this is my application to be a, you know, combat designer.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was mentioning things about the set bonuses as well, and I've been kind of saying the same thing. Like, they need to be much more. Hey, Wizzy, thank you for the sub. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Cool. But they need to be more. It's your face. Yeah, they need to be more applicable to the needs and wants of people instead of random stuff. Like, if I get a heavy piece of armor, I really don't care about getting strength alongside of like magical power or something like that. Like there's some really weird bonuses that don't quite really mesh up or don't quite go to the same goal when it comes to the general heavy bonuses. Medium bonuses are light.
I was gonna say, Vertec, I completely agree with you. I really wish gear or recipes were a bit more modular. And what I mean by that is, like, if I want a heavy piece of gear, I want to be able to put intellect on that instead of strength. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to be able to kind of modify certain recipes depending on what materials I put in.
Now, I know that they already talked about crafters being able to do that, to shuffle stats. We just don't know to what degree and how exactly. So they might be able to take like a Rosarium Guard heavy set and tune it to be more, you know, heavy physical armor, or tune it to be heavy magic resistance, something like that. Who knows?
I'm glad you brought that up. I was gonna say, for one, real quick, I would like to see meaningful gear sets before getting to content, i.e. it feels a little weird. Maybe it's meant to be this way, but for me it feels a little weird getting the gear that's probably better for Carfin in Carfin, but maybe that's why it's dropping in Carfin. Because you get that gear, you're able to withstand more, you can climb the tower a little bit more, kind of thing. Maybe that's what it's intended for. I'm waiting to see the full picture before I give too much of my feedback on that. But for two, Vladis, you actually brought up a really good point in your video, and I'm going to plug your video regarding what Vertec just said about like the stats and things like that, and also how to potentially allow scribes to feel a little bit more like they're part of the system rather than just let me. Oh, sorry, I didn't know you weren't finished.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was mid sentence there.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so with the bonuses on the gear and whatnot, especially set bonuses, it'd be really cool, I think, to actually have more set bonuses that are more varied, because currently, and this is maybe my one critique when it comes to armor and gear, is that they focused on adding individual armor styles for each specific armor set for every single individual race. And I think that personally, I find that less useful than making a separate armor set that has a set bonus for like tank and one for physical DPS and one for magic users of, say, each variety instead. It would take less visual adjustment to do that, and then you would be able to go anywhere. Like you're in Carfin and you're going to find a good medium set for magic, and you're going to find a good medium set for physical, and you're going to find a good heavy set for magic, heavy set for physical, and that have their own set bonuses. And that I would find much more useful and pleasing in the gameplay versus, to be honest, I like the look of some armor and I don't want the Vex spin on it. I just don't. I want that armor right there, and I can't have that armor because when I get that armor, it doesn't look like that when I put it on, and that upsets me.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I just kind of wish, because right now there's certain crafters that feel very burdened by a single gatherable. Like if you're crafting a lot of light armor, you need bluebells, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bluebells is what you need, and there's not really a function for moonbells, right? And so there's that disparity too with crafting.
There's I do tailoring primarily. So Moonbell is primarily your artisan gear, but also there's some recipes that you can get from some of the bosses that require Moonbell as well. But it's not nearly as much as Bluebell, but it is there.
I just think that there needs to be flexibility is what I think crafters are really wanting, right? Like when you feel so pigeonholed by a particular gatherable and you feel like this other gatherable is like a less than, right? It's like it's not as valuable. Like they should, in my opinion, Moonbells and Bluebells should be equally viable, but it doesn't feel that way towards crafters.
But the other thing that adds to that is how much the node needs of those same things. So you're caught going, do I get to make gear or am I just giving it all to the node now?
Right.
Because that's the unfortunate side of it. But the thing that I was trying to bring up earlier is, Vladis, you made a good point on, I think it was your third system that you were discussing, where scribes could affect what, not really affect exactly, but when you enchant something, you could essentially get a random enchant that would be beneficial maybe for a mage, but not a ranger. And then that gives them plausibility or plausible reason to sell that gear on the marketplace, so that maybe a mage might want to get it, because not only do you have what Vertec was talking about with like these more ideal stats for yourself, but within the enchantment system, especially if it's RNG like the way that you proposed, then you're pushing economy in that manner, because you're making people kind of rely on it. It's like, ooh, I got this ring and it has healing power, but I'm a mage and I shouldn't be using healing power. But there's the same exact ring that's enchanted that has magic power, which is much more up my alley, or int, which is much more up my alley. Then you can essentially be like, I'm going to sell this ring or give it to a healer friend that I know, and I'm going to go get that ring because that's better for me.
Right. For that matter. Hey. Oh, sorry. If you ever want to respond to that, I definitely have a question afterwards.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this question, I guess, would be for you specifically, Vladis, because you've put a lot of thought into it, because I watched that video too, and your 3 different suggestions, but also for chat to see how you guys feel about this. Not saying I support it either way, but it popped up as an idea. So with the random enchantment thing, instead of somebody feeling like they may have gotten the short end of the stick and they are amping up, let's say, the super solid chest plate of tankiness, and it's all built around tank stats basically, and then you go to enchant it and you're getting these random stats and you end up with like healing power and magical crit and all these stats that you just don't really care about. How would you feel if there was an additional scribe scroll that could be made that was like a scroll of erasure or a scroll of replacement that could then go and like erase those or replace you? Like you specifically have to use two scrolls together or one after another to remove an enchantment that was put on there by a player and then replace it with another random one.
Yeah, I think that could be anything that drives the economy. I'm always down for that. It was really funny when I was going through comments on my video and even the previous video, like people really think I'm being negative or I'm being like, every person that I've talked to in Discord, like every Discord that I pop into and I ask these questions, people think that the enchanting system is very meh. It's a very, you +8 your gear, mostly because it's safe to do that. And because honestly, enchanting gets pretty expensive depending on like the rarity of your gear,
Right.
so, but most of the time it's a very safe thing. So most people on server have anywhere between +5 to +8 with the super sweats. But outside of that, like, it's just a very boring system. It's just a +1 to everything, right? So all I was saying is like, when I talk to people, they just want the enchanting system to be more interesting, right? And so that's why I kind of made that video, is because I kind of agree. I think what it needs is excitement, and right now there really isn't any excitement. And I think that's with the first redesign, I wanted to introduce breaking the gear completely, like destroying the gear right at level 1. Because if you knew you just made an epic piece of gear, are you willing to +1 to have that completely destroyed by chance? You know what I mean? And I think that's what because Steven always talked about it in the past live streams before Ashes was even available for Alpha 2, that the enchanting system was meant to be a very powerful system. And it did feel that way.
So how about this then? How about a small tweak to it where, say, level 1, it doesn't have a chance to destroy, but it starts out really weak. And a low level of destruction, but the higher power, it increases with every tier that you go up. Like, let's just say, for instance, now that everything's like multiplied by 10, the tier 1 gives you +1, tier 2 gives you +2, tier 3 gives you +3, +4, etc., all the way up to like 10 or 20 or whatever the limit is. But the possibility to destroy gets more. So, low risk, low reward, until you get to whatever balance you feel fits your play style or your wallet, for that matter, on how many augmented or enhancing, what the heck are those little tokens or beads or whatever that you can put in to increase your enchantment probability. Like, whatever your wallet will support, that's how much risk you're willing to go up to. Like +15, sure, but you also have a super high chance of destruction, but it's also super powerful.
It's really hard to answer this, and I didn't even mention this in the video, but the problem with these kind of systems like enchanting is the fact that we also have tempering, we have jewel crafting and socketing. We have other versions of vertical progression that we're not even talking about right now. Like, we haven't even have it in the game currently. So when you just, magnify a single system and say like, oh, like, let's tweak this system or let's change it without knowing what these other systems are going to do, like, it's kind of hard to have that kind of discussion. And I think I want, like, the thing that I've heard from a lot of people is they want enchanting to be something that scribes can actually feel a part of, and I think, when I talk about like enchant weapon, right? Like, you think of World of Warcraft, like Fury weapon, or you think of Mongoose, people, like, especially back in vanilla, not even classic WoW in 2019, I'm talking like vanilla, like, you knew people on server that had a specific enchant and they were known for having that enchant. Yeah. And I really love that kind of reward, to be on the server and you're one of 3 people potentially to have that enchant. And as a profession person, you feel very valuable, right? You feel very needed, and you can set your own price. If you like people, you can charge them a good price. If you don't like that person, because this is a PVX server, you can charge them a hell of a lot more, or not even choose to sell it to them or enchant it to them. Like, I like that in this game, and I think that aspect is just completely missing.
I think that'd be even great, like, because they already are going to have the the artifact system in, right, where there's going to be potentially one of a certain weapon. What if there's like artifact enchants and legendary enchants and such like that you could get? Like, sure, there may be 3 people on the server that have it, but one of them rarely ever logs in, only makes 3 a month, and tosses them up on the auction house and walks away. And so you're one of the only few that someone can reach out to live that's logged on.
And to answer your question earlier about, like, for keeping it like low risk for like certain people that want to play more casually, like, the enchanting system could actually be a system that isn't made for them, right? Like, tempering could actually be that cheaper, low risk kind of vertical progression for them. And the thing is that like the way I kind of envision it is I think for the sweats, right, the hardcore, maybe 10 or 5% of the players are going to socket their gear, temper their gear, enchant their gear, like do all of them, but you might have people that it's like, I don't want to risk anything with enchanting. I'm just going to socket my gear and I'll be fine with that. Right. And to me, I think that's fine. It's just hard to look at it through like a very specific lens of just enchanting without knowing what the hell is even tempering, what the hell is going to be, jewel socketing, is it just going to be like plus 100 strength, plus 100 intellect to every single piece of gear now? Like, is that what it is? Because that to me, I feel like enchanting is just boring. Like plus 1 to everything, it's not really an exciting system. Jewel crafting for the most part isn't really an exciting thing either. So I understand that some people really love just, I like having just an extra 100 of a certain primary stat, and that's fine. I want stuff to be a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more interesting than what other games have done.
I genuinely want enchanting to feel the way that it did feel in World of Warcraft. And that's kind of really weird to say as an Ashes player who quit World of Warcraft. But I just remember the first time I ever saw a unique like graphic effect on somebody's weapon. And I remember going, whoa, that's really cool. How did you do that? And to realize that it was an enchant that did it, and it made it look really cool. Like people loved showing off their weapons and the enchants that they had it. I remember because for those of you that don't know, I started playing MMOs when I was like 13 with my dad, and so he'd always come running over to me with this newest enchant on his best new weapon that he got from the content, like whatever patch that was, and showing it off to me. And I just remember it being like really cool to see it, like just I don't know, there's like orbs going around it or like a unique glow, which they definitely have it for. I think legendary gear has a glow. I don't know, some do, some don't, but I want to see something cool like what we saw in the crafting showcase where he used these different types of materials and then you saw this really cool sword as the final product. And I think that maybe that's coming. So, I mean, a lot of these things I was telling someone in chat, like I'm keeping a lot of my thoughts to myself because I'm kind of still waiting to see where things go. And I don't want to like miss my chance to give my feedback, obviously. But, I mean, Stealth POV said you could make scribes be the enchanters, so +1 or +2 for novice, 3 and 4 for apprentice, etc. But also, I wanted to go back to the idea of making scribes feeling like they're helpful. And I like the idea of, you know how when you get a piece of gear, if it's common, you get whatever's there. I think if it's uncommon, it's better stats, but there's nothing really new. I think it's not until rare or heroic that you start getting these additional stats that get added on. What if with enchanting you make an uncommon, a rare, etc. enchantment with scrolls or scribe enchantment scroll, and if it's the higher rarity the scroll is, the more additional stats that enchant does, but it's also much more costly to enchant your weapon with it.
I'd be down for that. You're talking like almost like if scribes had a safe way to enchant your gear without the ability to, like, you're circumventing the system of breaking the gear or destroying it or going through a whole bunch of gold. You can say like, hey, is that where you're, or I'm just trying to understand what you're trying to say.
No, not necessarily. Oh, the glow is based on the enchantment level. Okay, I could have sworn I saw somebody on like PTR having a glow on their weapon, but we had just barely gotten it. I don't know.
Oh yeah. They what it was, they started there and then they just blasted through some enchantment levels real quick and got up to a certain level to get that glow.
Okay. But what I was getting at is like, let's say the scribe uses whatever materials to make a rare enchanting scroll. Whoever goes to use that enchantment scroll at rare, let's say, gets 3 of their stats boosted with a +1 instead of everything. And that kind of adds meaningfulness to rarity within the scribing system.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Vladis. You first.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, anything that gives scribes, like whether it's like a scroll that costs less money for the enchant, whether it's a scroll that provides like a chance to double proc, anything that a scribe, that allows them to have more at the repertoire, because I think that's what a lot of scribes are complaining about, is that they feel like as a scribe they don't feel like they have much to work with, right? And I think, in my opinion, I think they should have a dual enchanting system. Like, I think they should have a low risk, low reward enchanting system that could be like a +1, and then a high risk, high reward enchanting system that is way more of a Gamba thing, right? Like, that's way more. It could be, you can lead to destruction, you can lead to resetting it back to 0, you can, like all that stuff. So you can either choose to do the low risk, low reward, which doesn't go as high, or you can choose to do the high risk, high reward. And I think scribes offering different scrolls, towards low risk and even high risk to, be like, hey, I'm going to do some Gamba rolls. I'm going to do I'm going to get 5 scrolls of, a rare to make it cheaper for me, and maybe offer like a 10% less of a chance that my gear might be destroyed, that I get from the scribe, while I do this high risk, high reward enchanting to my weapon. Like, that's the stuff that I kind of want, right? I want there to be things that the scribe can offer to you to make it like a better roll, less gold, less risk potentially, but that's going to cost money, right? It's like, hey, if I'm going to get 10% less off, that scroll is going to be pretty fucking expensive, right? Like, that's going to be like something that the scribes are going to be like charging a hell of a lot for. And that's what I like, though. I like offering options, and I think right now the scribe just lacks options.
It drives player economy, and I think that's a great idea. I'll give my other thought after Vertec.
So, looking at some of the comments here in chat, I like where a lot of this is headed, and I want to kind of combine them all, because I just thought how neat it would be to have an enchantment system that's a little bit more complex. So Stealth POV says could make scribes be enchanters, +1, +2 for novice. Chibi already talked about that one. So if 20 is the cap, if there's 5 tiers, novice, apprentice, journeyman, master, grandmaster. So +1 through 4 is for apprentice, etc., etc. So you got 4 tiers per tier of scribe, and then the rarity is going to increase, like how many, like the power of the stats. But then you could have the dual crafting or the dual enchanting system, like you were talking about, and Sitsuma said something similar, but say the second style would have WoW style enchants where you just add 50 strength or whatnot. You do Mongoose that has a trigger effect and that type of thing.
I would.
What if that secondary one? What if that secondary one was the gamble one, like you were talking about, and the rarity increased the chance of success, but those gambling type enchants, they were not able to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Mitigated by another item increasing success chance. They just were what they were, and that was it.
I mean, that could cost a lot of money too.
Yeah, it could cost a lot of money, and it would have a guaranteed. You can't just go to the merchant and buy 100 like enchanting pearls or whatever those things were. I forget, and increase your success chance to 0 chance of failure by just adding a ton of those.
The other thing they can do is just have like even an like getting rid of enchanting weapons at a vertical rate right now. So for both of your weapons, you can't plus anything. Like, you can't do the low risk or high risk. There's actual recipes that are out in the world that are enchant weapon recipes, and scribes are the only ones that can get those, right? So if you want to enchant your headpiece, then you just do what we've been doing with enchanting. But if you want to enchant your bow, if you want to enchant your 2-handed sword, that has to be a specific enchant. You know what I mean? And I think that would be, I think, a really cool way to go about doing something like that, because that would be a very much like, you don't have to risk destroying your weapon, because who wants to do that, right? But you're gonna probably pay a pretty penny to enchant your weapon with like a mongoose enchant, or some kind of a thing like that.
Well, see, that's kind of where I was thinking that the gem slots could come into play, because those are very much like more unique changes.
Yeah, they can do
you're
like
going
that
to
too.
add like mongoose, or you're going to add, a gem that gives you more mitigation while doing this skill, or changes this mitigation skill into this other thing instead. Like changes maybe specific things about some archetypes, like changes some skills, alters them, or how they interact, almost like the inscription system in WoW. Combined with this specialty enchants, because they're very unique and they're not really scalable very well. But you could get specific gem cutting recipes, and they're gonna have a little bit of magic dust added into them to give them that special power as well.
Yeah, and I think that would be a great idea. I mean, my whole thing is that like, especially with us like Ashes geeks, like we always want to make these systems more and more complicated because we just think it'd be cool. But I look at the enchanting system and I just find it to be so bland. Like it's the most basic thing I've ever seen. And I don't know. And again, there's people who really like that kind of Korean style Gamba system. But I don't find it interesting.
How neat would it be if that's how they were able to classify it? Like enchanting is purely for scaling and adding stats to your gear that are already there. You can scale and adjust stats that are already there. Your gem slots could change specific unique abilities or have unique alterations to skills and such like that. Again, like Mongoose, that doesn't actually impact a skill, but adds a different type of proc effect. And then tempering could maybe increase the rarity level of gear.
I always thought tempering would be something that like adds durability, right? Because like I don't know if Steven or if they're still going to do this, but they always kind of talked about in the past where gear was going to eventually be destroyed. Like gear in Ashes wasn't going to be a permanent thing. Like eventually you're going to have to replace your chest piece. Eventually you're going to have to replace because you're only going to be awarded so many times to repair it until it's just irreparable. I'm really curious if they're considering to even do that still.
I don't really like that idea personally.
I mean, it always irked me hearing it in the past, but I don't know. Like I'm curious to see what the team thinks about that.
For me, like, sure, long term it needs to be recycled as you level up, you get better gear, so you get rid of the gear that you have, and etc. But like, if you think about the difference in economy, and I mean, we've seen a lot of comments on our recent YouTube videos, which thank you guys, keep it up. We love seeing your comments. But we had a few people being like, wow, I didn't realize how broke people were on Lyneth. And so it's like, if you do something like that as an across the board thing, you're gonna have some servers like Lyneth who a lot of the people on Lyneth don't really have as much money, and things are not going for as much as they are going on other servers, get affected by a feature that essentially says, yeah, all that hard work that you just did trying to get the materials for that gear that you crafted, well, that gear is broken now, so you're going to have to do it all over again and spend all of that time all over again if they don't necessarily have that type of money, because the economy on each server is going to be different. And so for me, I especially don't like that, because what could take people on Lyneth like 3 weeks to get the type of materials that they need might take somebody on Vyra like 2 days with the right gold and the right purchases. And that's just something that comes to mind for me on that one. But Vertec, I'll let you answer before I kind of pivot the conversation a little bit, because there was something I wanted to say, but I wanted to respond to that specifically.
Sorry, answer to what specifically?
I didn't know if you were gonna, it sounded like you may like have responded to the gear getting destroyed thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing that should happen in some way, shape, or form. It's just a question of how, like, every death lowers one maximum durability or something. But I think even the tempering could almost be a thing where it reduces the maximum durability but makes the item stronger, the item itself stronger in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of where I got the idea of make it increase rarity maybe. But then what happens if you get a legendary crafted and then you temper it? Does it make it an artifact? Like, I guess that would be kind of weird, wouldn't it?
Susuma says, if done right, I think it could work well. People would have one god tier set for node sieges, group caravans, world bosses, etc. And then they have greens and blues set for regular gameplay. Honestly, Theogen has the best point there. Deaths would be bad for tanks since they often die the most. And I don't really like the idea of like gear bloat. You know, they said that there wasn't gonna be, you need PvP gear for PvP and PvE gear for PvE, but I mean, I'm still finding that that's not true. Like,
Yeah.
bows are better for PvP and books are great for PvE, and I prefer to do the books. I put all of my time and effort into the book, but it doesn't really perform well in PvP. So like clearly there's PvP gear and PvE gear, and it's a little bit frustrating.
And with a tank, it's literally just gear to be a damage, just all strength, forget your mitigation, forget your constitution, just ignore all that and just do full strength as a tank for PvP. So that's legitimately an entire second set for me, top to bottom.
Yeah, so for me, if you add on top of that gear rarity, like, oh, this is my best stuff, so this is what I'm going to bring when we're going to go do raids or whatever, because I'm probably going to have to PvP and PvE when doing that. I don't know. I don't like that. I really don't. And I'm with no one who said I'm not a huge fan of gear destruction in general. The thought of gear taking so much effort to grind for level, enchant, socket, etc., only for an RNG break chance just feels bad. Yes, I agree. I'm not against grinding, but sometimes some stuff feels monotonous, and this is one of those for me. And I agree. The pivot that I'm taking us to is Greek on the forums is talking about gear level matters too much. Gear quality needs to scale non-linear. And some of the important pieces about this and why it relates to what we're talking about is apprentice seemed to be more useful before enchanting due to the scaling nature of strength, intelligence. Enchanting made any item with these stats scale very hard, allowing for apprentice gear to surpass most journeyman gear that could be farmed as drops, and allow players to get very cheap gear and enchant it. This came with its own set of problems, such as gear int strength, gear scaling so high that power numbers got ridiculous, making a very short time to kill. Also, any journeyman gear without int or strength would never be better than its novice or apprentice counterparts. And this could be broken into two problems. A, all secondary stats went up by an equal amount, and B, waterfall was too powerful. And I'll let you guys go through the rest of that for yourself. But this kind of lends itself to the discussion that I kept having with Vertec, and I'm not sure, Vertec, if you brought this up on the tank roundtable that you were on with Vladis, but Vladis held, for those of you that don't know, recently a tank roundtable with Vertec and Dusty and one other person I'm forgetting.
It was from Genesis.
Pinata.
Yeah, Pinata.
But when Vertec and I were discussing how he was feeling when he was boycotting his tank for a while about being a tank on the PTR versus the live, he said, I felt more tanky in the blue gear that they gave us than the purple gear that they gave us of the same type. And so to me, I feel like TTK was highly tied to the gear in some form or fashion. I didn't know what that was exactly, but something changed between the blue and the purple set. I don't know what, but I feel like what Greek is getting at here is kind of touching on that a little bit.
Yeah, it was a scaling of the stats themselves, to be honest. Like, mitigation just wasn't what it should be. And damage was just astronomically overblown. Like, the more you stacked the power, the more powerful you got, and it was crazy compared to mitigation, is I think what the crux of the situation was.
Yeah. I think, also not being at max level also kind of plays into gearing, right? And how you gear, because no one, like, every breakpoint, right, at level 10, level 20, level 30, level 40, you're not going to want to stop, enchant all your gear, socket all your gear, like, you're just going to keep leveling. You're going to keep going, but I do agree, and I think this is all honestly just a numbers thing, which, it's alpha. dropped gear will be more rare than what it currently is. You're gonna want to craft gear. Gear is going to be a rare thing. You're probably going to get more recipe drops than actual gear drops. I know people, are very used to right now going into Cephalian or to Carfin or into whatever, and just, you're just seeing uncommon or rare heroic gear drop. That's not going to happen. And that gear, won't be and should not be as powerful as the crafted gear. And I think, again, like once we actually get more levels to play with, right now people are min-maxing level 20 gear or 10 gear because, we only have access to 25. But once we actually go to 50 and now we have 50 levels to play with, your mindset when it comes to gearing is going to be completely different. So I just think taking that into account for right now is also a good thing. But I understand the spirit of what he is referring to. And I think this is what we have to kind of discuss, and it's going to be really interesting to see what Intrepid is going to do when it comes to the overall gear scaling. Like, should a level 10 legendary be on par with a uncommon level 20, right? Like, should that be? And in my opinion, if it was, I wouldn't give two cares. Like, let it be. Like, if they crafted a legendary at level 10, it should still be kind of good, even in level 20. But the fact that a common level 20 surpasses a legendary level 10, like, I can see where that is a little, messed up.
Yeah. Now, my take on this is a little bit different when it comes to specifically looking at that post by Greek. I think that a legendary of say level 10 should be more powerful, but just slightly, like maybe right in between rare and heroic for the next giant level tier up for level 20 up. And reason being is that I think it's perfectly acceptable, and it's still going to give crafters things to do. Because for 100%. One, the finished product of crafting is supposed to include crafters being able to manipulate the stats. Therefore, it's not going to be like just a random drop. Like, for instance, looking at that the lightning charged Forsaken Blades wand. Let's say you wanted to add on extra stats that gave you different damage besides magical crit chance. Maybe you didn't care about magical crit chance because the rest of your magical crit chance and all the other gear is absolute garbage. So you want to get something else instead. Anything else, like add more mentality, add more intel, add more like just spell casting power, add more, you know what? It's a spell casting item. Add more healing power. There you go. So I think a legendary of 1 tier should land between the blue, the rare, and the heroic of the next tier up. And that way, when something just drops, it's got your default generic stats that may or may not fit what you want, but it's usable. And those dropping from humanoids to me makes sense. Anything beyond humanoids are not going to drop items, so you're only going to get it in humanoid type areas. And even then, you're going to get the items from those same humanoids that could craft a better version of that thing you're trying to find as a drop. It also leaves the door open for people that want to create legendary gear sets for their guild. Like, hey, I have this legendary gear set that I can hand out to somebody that hopefully they don't steal it and sell it, but they can use it for leveling. And this will get you from level 10 to level 25, no problem. But if you find other pieces, just hand me back the ones that you replace as you replace them, and eventually I'll get the whole gear set back from you. But yeah, it leaves room for finding some items, getting some items crafted along the way, as well as getting the entire set crafted at super powered level.
I think people also have the misconception too. I completely agree with you, by the way, Vertec, because right now we're still in the mindset of static node rarity, right? We're still in the mindset of go to a node, hit it every 2 hours, every 4 hours, and I can have 35 to 40 legendaries depending on the kind of node. And I think people are still in that mindset, right? But I agree, once that is gone, legendaries are going to really feel legendary. And if you wanted to put together a level 10 or a level 20 legendary, it should still feel powerful even in the next tier. That's a lot of effort to just be, well, I'm level 30 now, a common is going to replace it. Like, that feels really bad. You know what I mean? So I completely agree with you.
One thing that I also want to add, looking back at the wiki, this was stated in 2018 and then in 2020. is wait, actually, sorry. 2019. I think that says 2017 and 2017. So it's been a little while since we heard about this, given 2019. But previously it was stated that crafted items will be on par with boss dropped items. So the crafted gear should be better than what is even dropping from mobs. So I would say the mobs dropping that same wand that he's talking about being able to farm, you should be able to farm that, but it would have heavier dampened stats on it because it was dropped from somebody than if you were to get the recipe from him and make that yourself.
And also, like, one thing, I just want to drop one sentence in here real quick, and that's that the items that you can find as a drop actually being somewhat pertinent, at least to or like impactful with whatever people are doing at that level, is still key, because it gives those who love doing PvE something to do to earn their keep, instead of, I don't like just going around gathering stuff all day. That's boring. I don't like crafting, because what I do is sit in town. I'm looking to craft stuff. Somebody bring me things to craft. And that's what they're going to do for a living. No, they can dungeon delve, they can PvE grind, and they'll find some drops that they can sell. And some of them are going to be completed items that some people might want.
Right. The other thing I was going to get at is by having the items that drop, which I was trying to find this an item rarities. Hold on, let me do a search for 2 to 4. Okay, so loot table from mobs and bosses have about a 2 to 4% RNG chance of dropping gear. So with that information, the most recent is from October 2024, and the one before that, September 2024, August 2024, and then 2019. So if bosses are supposed to have a 2 to 4% chance RNG to drop gear, I'm thinking they need to drop gear a lot less. And to answer Setsuma's question, why craft a level 10 item when it's easier and better to farm a level 20 items for drops, you know, and glint and stuff until journeyman benches open up? It's because this actually goes back to a conversation that we had. I forgot with who. I apologize if you're watching this and it was you, but we were talking about, you know, it feels right now, why even bother making anything novice? Why? I can just go farm it. I can just, next thing I know, I'm going to be level 10 and I may as well just get the apprentice stuff. But then that's really hard to get, and you spend most of your 10 to 20 getting the apprentice stuff, and you finally get it pretty much by the time you're hitting level 20. And at that point, the journeyman stuff is just around the corner, you know, like it could go on and on. And so one of the thought processes was lower the amount of stuff needed for novice, and then, you know, kind of scale it up from there. Make novice really easy to make gear, so that way it makes it worthwhile as a tailor at level 2 to be able to get the gear needed, or the items needed for that gear, and then go make the gear that you need to make. I think the other side of this is, if they are dropping things, let's say from mobs, that are not as good as the crafted stuff, which is how it should be, then the decomposition capability of taking the item and breaking it down with the kits, that should give you some of the materials that you're struggling to farm, especially when it comes to grem skins and things like that, if it's not readily available to you, or copper bars, copper ingots, etc. And then that would also assist the lower tier crafters. But I don't know. I feel like by the time you even think about making novice gear, you're already an apprentice tier.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think novice should actually be pretty easy to craft. I mean, again, this is introductory, and you don't really stay. You go to level 10 within a day. So really, all of that gear from like level 0 gear, you're literally only playing with for a couple of hours.
Right.
Like, and I'm talking even a casual person. Like, if it may be 2 days, like if you're playing super casual, like if you're playing 2 hours a day, But yeah, like you're going to be completely flying, at that particular level. So I think in order for you to actually be truly introduced to crafting, it needs to be a lot easier to craft that gear. So people are actually having some kind of an economy for level 0 gear a little bit. And especially like in my mind, like I think the only thing that should be dropping potentially is like common gear at level 0 from everywhere. Like if they're below level 10, it should just be common. Like, because again, the game's forcing you to craft, right? At least uncommon, at least a rare, whatever, right? But and if it's easier to do so, who gives a crap about a common? If a common drops, just vendor it. Because the game, in my opinion, should be teaching you to, this is a crafting game, right?
Or
this is a game where,
it.
Yeah, exactly. Deconstruct it, get some materials from it, and craft something better.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way it currently works is, you just, stay in either no gear or whatever commons you can find until you hit level 10, and then the stuff starts. But it doesn't start at level 0. It starts at level 10 for most people.
Right.
Yeah. And to be honest, yeah, like you were saying, the crafting of common gear is probably just going to be to shoot you through the levels, but anything beyond that, like when you start to get people who are concentrating on making legendary novice gear, like your targets are people who are twinking out a brand new alt is what it is. So you sell that stuff for super high cost, right? For one, it's legendary, but for two, like I see you. You're that person who already has 2 max levels, and you're just making a third one, and you just want to get through it quick. Got it.
Yeah. Think of all the poor like weapon and armor smiths, man. They need like 2,500 copper just to
crazy.
Just to go from 0 to 10.
I didn't even like making a level 10 weapon. It took me multiple weeks just to make
it's crazy
my level 10 weapon, and that's not even regarding like the legendary value of it. It was back when the copper was like rare. I was trying to make my spell book, and it took me almost a month to get all of them. Like I already had the emblems, that part was easy. And it's just, that's what I'm saying. If it's taken me a month just to make my book, and my book breaks because gear degradation, I'm going to be pissed. I'm sorry. That took me a month.
Yeah. And like Theo said, lumber milling's not so hard. I mean, there are so many trees around. So like lumberjacking and lumber milling, those are 2 you could just blast right through. Granted, Theo gave me probably close to 1,000 logs at this point, so I kind of blasted right through. I think I'm a journeyman. Yeah, I'm a journeyman, and through journeyman, just from sitting in town with a level like 5 and just grinding through what he gave me.
Yeah.
But there are so many trees around. I think, when it comes to like the metalworking and stone what is it, stoneworking?
Stonemasonry.
Stonemason, yeah. Those 2, like it's hard. It's still kind of hard to find a lot of copper. It's not as rare as it used to be, where nobody could find a copper node anywhere. You'd be lucky if you found one, and then somebody else would find one in like a day. Now you can find a lot more, but still, even at that point, it's still really hard to come up with 2,500. Did you say it was to get through 0 through 10?
Something like that.
Bananas.
Yeah. And that's a lot. That's an egregious amount just to get to like apprentice. And especially, and that's kind of the thing I was hinting at previously. I know we've gotten a little off track from like stat changes, but I feel like it all interplays, right? This is a huge system.
I'm going to slightly interrupt real quick because we have no one waiting. I'm going to bring no one in.
We have a no one? Oh
we
my
have
gosh, it's no one. Hello.
Welcome in, no one.
What's up, guys?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Fantastic. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you guys too. Glad I could catch it.
Sorry if you were waiting for a while.
I was just I've wiped away the tears. I'm good to go. So
okay.
we're all good now.
Good to know. Good to know. What are your thoughts on this? I was about to go on a huge like rant.
About the harvest, about the I heard you guys talking about mining copper and just
It's
like lower level copper
just
mining.
a
and-
variety of things, like the TTK system, the gear system, crafting the gear, etc.
You know, it's funny because for me, my main thing that I like to do in MMOs is PvP, and PvP has not been in a fun spot. Like it's been one of my least favorite things to do in Ashes right now, just
Mhm.
because it lacks a lot of depth. People die really easily. It's just not very fun. The
Yeah.
things that have been fun for me specifically have been the economy stuff. Like for us on Vyra, we didn't cooperate and work as well together as people on Lilith, and so things came online a little bit slower. And
Right.
so it was really fun to see resource gold spikes before and after stuff came online, and it was
Mhm.
really fun to like predict like, okay, this is coming online. What are the next best recipes for this? Trying to give your guild a head start on like, hey, what to collect, what to look to maybe buy now and sell later when prices go up. When I first tuned in, you guys were talking about Bluebell, right?
Right.
Like some of the that was one of the I think that was the system that came online like 2 weeks ago. And so all of a sudden it was interesting because like if I remember, I'm not a flower picker, so I very well
Okay.
could be wrong here, but I think that's one of the lower level materials, and people just stopped kind of collecting some of them. And
It's
so
an
there's
apprentice.
just this, there's just so it wasn't journeyman. And so there's a few armor pieces that call for it, and there was just nothing out on the market because people were just vendoring it or giving it to the node or whatever because there was no value. And then all of a sudden, I think Gladys can probably give a better number, but I remember seeing legendary Bluebell going for like 9 gold. And the next day people were trying to sell it for like 15 gold. They're like, good luck finding it. I have one. Like, you had to go pick flowers. You got to buy it for me. And that was like the only flower available. So
Oh my gosh.
the economy stuff's been really fun. The gearing stuff has been fun, but tedious.
Meanwhile,
it's just traveling.
on Lindeth, I have easily 300 Bluebell in one of my storages
Oh, really?
that I'm like, I don't know what to do with this because nobody needs it.
You
And
know
I
what's-
can't turn it into anything yet because it's just Bluebell. I need it to be processed first so then I can turn it into stuff, but then I need all this other stuff that I don't have.
Yep.
Yep.
You know what else is kind of funny about that? Like on Lyneth, we literally went from up to journeyman with basically everything. I mean, there's a few pain points, but with everything that is journeyman, we got to journeyman like quick. I think it was like a week and a half. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was stupid fast. And then it was just bringing on some ancillary stuff and adding secondary journeyman buildings because you can't have the same journeyman building be lumber milling and carpentry. You gotta have 2 separate buildings for it. That type of thing. But it went so quickly that people started focusing on apprentice if journeyman wasn't available, but journeyman almost right away, like right out of the gate.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And what's awkward is on the server that cooperated the most to get crafting stuff up and going, I think crafting people probably made more money on Vyra because they had time to plan and time to build. And like, let's say someone had, gathered up so many of these things that are coming up and they got them ready in their bank account or their storage, like just ready to go. And they had so much more time to gather legendary stuff before it was massively available.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, well, not many other people planned ahead. I've been gathering this entire time, and I've been making all these things this entire time and processing, and now I'm ready to craft it. So let's go.
Yeah, for us, each building was an event. So when the sorry, I gotta clear my throat real quick. But like when the carpentry station came online, people started ganking right as soon as the station came online because they were trying to collect resources from people attempting to harvest. The same thing happened with weaving. The same thing happened, I think. I know those 2 for sure, but it was like every single one on Vyra was this event, and it was like, okay, got to be careful, like you don't lose all your stuff. And it was kind of funny because I talked to people from Lyneth in the Discord, and they're like, yeah, we've had all this stuff like weeks ago. Like, why haven't you guys gotten this yet? And it's like, well, it's a little bit more contentious over here. We're not
Because our noses
we're
are
not as
bloody.
friendly over here.
Yeah.
and so it's been fun seeing the difference, because that's a cool part about Ashes. Is just it's so player driven that two different things can happen on two different servers, and it's vastly different. And I think that's so cool.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I need to get myself a little bit more into the PvP life. I really do, because I don't know. I don't find a lot of joy in it, but I think I need to find that joy, and I need to just accept it and deal with it and try to survive through it. But man, I don't know if I would have cut it if we had landed on Vira the way it was. I'm not sure if I would have stuck with it.
Quit.
Or like, bailed and went to Leneth like real quick. Like, sorry, Nexus, love you guys. I'm gonna go over here where I can test stuff other than how quickly I can die.
Yeah. That for me is one of those, like, I probably am more likely to do PvP if I know that I'm going to be more on equal footing. Like, I'm not going to be zapped in 2 seconds and then I'm dead and I'm useless to the rest of the team for however long it takes me to get back, and then get zapped in 2 seconds again. But it's one of those things where if I feel like I can hold my own as a cleric and also still be able to support people, I'd prefer that. Obviously, having 3 people focus you at once means your TTK is going to go way down.
Yeah.
But if that even adjusts where Vertex mitigation on me, like putting a shield on me or something, means that I can survive a little longer, I'd prefer that, because then you can plan for that. We know this is going to happen. And that's kind of what I was getting into the weeds a little bit about with the crafting system, is by making the crafting system more meaningful, and by making sure that whatever gear is dropped is not nearly as good, even if it's common. If the common gear is not as good as the crafted commons, it's at least still a step up. You still get a power boost from it because you got an item drop for this next tier that you're trying to get gear from. But you're better, but it's more like a tide you over, you know, like when you're really hungry and you know you have a big dinner that you're going to go to later, but you want a little snack. That's what it should be. That's what the dropped gear should be, is that little snack to tide you over, in my opinion, at least. But
either a snack or deconstructing the gear to get some materials out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it. Even being the PvE nut that I am, like, it should just be that thing that, like, hey, look, cool, I got something that'll work, and it'll replace the old thing that I have that was, mediocre.
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. I personally like the changes that they've made with gearing and enchanting and like the TTK change. But if I were to say the things that I don't like that automatically, like level 20 common, it like what Vertex said earlier, it's level 20 common is better than like level 10 rare and higher. And it's just one of those, like, just like level 10 should have their place a little bit, and if they don't, then rarity doesn't matter. And then you're not, like, what's the point in going out to farm, epic copper or legendary copper in that instance, because it just has no weight. And so I think that's important.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I was going to make a point on that earlier, but there was so much said that I forgot to even respond to that. But yeah, no, I genuinely think, to your point, you put in the time and effort, you got this rarity, because also to Erwin's point that he put in the chat earlier, and I didn't get a chance to call that out, but Vertec and Vladis saw it, is that going forward, with the idea is that the most common pieces you're going to be able to get your hands on, if the hunting system has anything to say about how the future of gathering is going to be, will be uncommon and rare, with heroic being the next most common, and then epic and legendary being more increasingly rare. And legendary, it should feel like amazing when you get legendary gear finally. I imagine either people hoarding them so that, like, somebody in their guild could get a nice legendary piece, or
Yep.
being like, you know what, I don't think I'm ever going to get any more legendary bluebells. Let me just sell this for some hot money real quick, because I could use that to get maybe something epic, which is a step up for me, you know.
Yes.
But it should absolutely 100%, if you even get an epic or heroic, I mean, that should definitely carry you over and blanket you until you're getting at least a rare level 20 item crafted up for yourself. And I think that it should be able to do that. That's the whole point of, I'm pretty sure Vertec, that's how it works in like WoW, at least getting those higher raid gears really set you like the, because if crafted gear is going to be on par with boss drops, it should hold you for questing and story arcs for a while before the next tier.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, story arcs, like I really am curious to see how things are supposed to pan out with the like instance dungeons and like gear that drops in there, items that drop in there, and how those are handled. Because depending on how those drop items and things worthwhile will vary a lot on the marketplace. It's kind of why I've always been like the instance stuff should drop like cosmetic stuff and just be more for the achievements and things like that. But by the same token, I also don't want to suffer, you know, gear degradation and experience debt from going into an instance place that doesn't give me gear drops. So, you know, we'll see how they play it out.
It shouldn't do that too, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what it looks like, because we haven't seen any yet, so I'm excited to see the first one they roll out with.
Right.
But yeah, going off your what you guys are talking about with resources and talking about guild hoarding of higher level mats, that was definitely us. That's definitely what we did. We kind of had we had our lumberjackers, we had our miners, we had our fat farmers. Like, you guys are worth your weight in gold, by the way. Like if you're collecting fat, thank you. And like literally we would just have a deal with each other, like, hey, you're trying to make this piece, I have this, you have this, like, let's make a deal. Like, we just barter with each other. And our entire thought process was, why would we sell legendary stuff to other guilds to get them stronger when we could keep it within our guild and make ourselves stronger? And so I'm sure we weren't the only people doing this, you know. I'm sure there were a lot of other guilds going out and collecting, but yeah, some guilds like really went hard on collecting things, and there's some really cool gear out there, like some really cool stuff that you see people have, and it's all guild driven, which is very cool.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see what phase 3 brings us with, especially this coming Friday. I believe we should start seeing the beginnings of the crafty or the rarity iteration, if not next Friday. I can't remember if it's the 18th or the 25th.
I can go look. I just posted it on my channel. Keep talking. Sorry, I'll go find it real quick.
No worries. But a lot of people were talking about how low TTK hurts PvP depth, and how these changes that Intrepid is making with the TTK, while it is slowing it down for PvE, it is the right direction for PvP. And there's Solvrin, one of the people that we have chatted with often within our Discords, who made this comment. But then there's also, let me find this other person. There we go. Lineker. Lineker has also made a post on it. So these two people are talking about how this is a step in the right direction, especially for PvP, and how, you know, the lower TTK, it just, unless you're one of those like, I need to always win and I don't care, it's not really actually about PvP, because you know those people, they say that they love PvP, and by that they just mean that they love winning in PvP, because they don't care that they nuked you in 2 seconds. Whereas somebody in my experience who actually 100% enjoys PvP likes the back and forth that PvP brings, and it's not as satisfying when it's just over.
Yeah, as long as I get a chance for that back instead of just the fourth that nukes me when I'm not looking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, those are two. So I know Solverin and talked to Lineker a few times, and yeah, the current, before these changes, the way it basically was, it was a spacing game, and then it was whoever goes in offensively first, the best basically wins, and it's just there's not a whole lot of depth. There's not really a chance to recover, get your stuff back, and like there's in a good fight, in my opinion, there's a give-take situation. Like if I attack Vertec, right, and I don't hit my combination well and he defends himself well, he should be able to survive. He should be able to recover. He should be able to punish me. And so now he gets to counterpunch. And if he does a better job putting me on my toes, getting me back, reeling, now he's applying all the pressure and I'm trying to get my stuff back. And there's this give-take situation. In a lot of in a lot of it, it was just, okay, Vertec, who's going to hit who first? And that's basically who would end up winning. So I would fight my fighter friends, and if I landed my combinations and they couldn't close the gap on me, I would win. And if I missed a combination and then they were able to get a trip off, they would win. And
Whoever makes the proper first step.
Yeah, and it was just so... There's no depth to it. And so it's like, it's not just, for me, it's not just winning and losing, it's replayability. And there's not a ton of replayability to that type of system. And the last thing I'll say on that is like fighters have, the point that I brought up is fighters have wound and clerics have increased healing power and stuff like this. The TTK was so low that none of those buffs and debuffs were being felt. It's just who was dying first. And if your combat system buffed and debuff system isn't being felt, then the damage is too high, or too low.
This damage is too damn high. But yeah, it's that's kind of exactly how I feel. Like there has to be time to respond. There has to be time to be able to say, like, I have engaged the enemy, not I have slain them after I jumped in and they died, and now I'm going after the next thing, and I'm going after the next thing, I'm going after the next thing. Like, give it a little bit of back and forth. Like, work for your kill.
Yes.
Yeah. Another thing somebody said, was this wrong direction? Oh no, I lost it. Oh, okay. Truby on the forums also said that TTK changes and impact on dodge. Is that essentially with the recent gear adjustments and the increase of TTK, it's becoming clear that the current implementation of dodge mechanic is flawed. Prior to the changes, dodge was the only mechanic that extended the TTK, and it was not that obvious how flawed it was. However, after the changes, dodging implementation is so ridiculous that it breaks the entire PvP system, in their opinion. And I'm adding in their opinion to this. Dodges use this traversal ability, which I think is not the intention, instead of it being a defensive ability. With current stamina tree that recovers stamina upon a successful dodge, it's translating to characters being able to traverse 50 to 80 meters in 2 seconds while taking no damage due to the dodge spam. Which I actually watched with Vertec one morning. I think it was Lazy Peon who was showing off that while dodging, he had 100% mitigation to anything that was incoming towards him for damage. And as soon as the dodge was over, that mitigation went back down. And in this person's opinion, number one, completely remove or reduce the stamina regeneration upon successful dodge. The dodge is limited to 2 to 3 uses instead of 5+. Number two, reduce the distance that character travels when performing a dodge, especially from elevated positions, which I genuinely think this is still a bug. When you dodge and jump at the same time as a very long travel distance, and I don't think that's intended, because if you can go flying if you go off the side of a cliff while dodging. And then the third option is any of the combination above. And I honestly really think that if you are putting points into the stamina, which after a certain point I don't think it really matters, because I think by the time you hit level 25 you've already unlocked that entire tree anyway. But instead of putting the points in that, you should have 2 to 3 uses of the dodge. As a cleric who has no mobility, I like being able to dodge as much as I freaking can, especially in PvP. But what are your thoughts in that?
On dodge, so I do agree with you. I think the dodge jump is unintended, but I kind of like it. Like I kind of like that you get that kind of space. I like movement in games, and so I totally understand the perspective that it's too much, because there's times where like on my rogue, if I dash jump, like it shoots me across the map sometimes, and like I'm flying across the map, and it's not always the same distance. Sometimes like that jump gives me an extra like 5-6 meters, or something like that, and sometimes it's like 10-20 meters, and I'm like, I don't know where this came from. So I totally get that perspective and that frustration. The stamina on dodge roll, I could see it getting adjusted, because basically, if I remember correctly, how it works is if you're dodging incoming attacks from a bunch of people, basically, if I remember correctly, there's like no cooldown on it. So if people are focusing you and you hit a dodge roll, you have full stam and you could just keep dodging, and like that allows you to get distance. I could see them adding a cooldown or something like that, but at the same time, if you're getting focused and you put in, passives for that type of cooldown to work defensively, I'm fine with it. But I think there should be other defensive mechanics as well that work as well as that type of dodge.
Right.
Yeah, we should talk about shield being useless.
Yeah. Oh god, shield.
Yeah.
There's no reason to hold
Block?
a shield right now at all.
Yeah, block. Yeah, block. It's just, I love the bunny hop, by the way, and also nice to see you. No one loved your videos the past couple of days. But yeah, I think the bunny hop is just a really cool thing. It's like a little bit of a skill thing, once you get used to doing it. I find it to be really cool. But I would love if block was actually worth the damn, like as a non-tank person. Like I think, there's some PvE moments where I would have loved for block to actually matter, and it just feels like it doesn't. And especially if I'm gonna, or go ahead.
Oh no, you finish first. I'll go after.
Like I don't care if it takes, like if I have 100% of my stamina up and I hit block to evade like a really powerful attack. Like a good example is like the Minotaur warriors when they do that big ability and smash to the ground. And if I let's say I wanted to block that, like I should be able to like take pretty good less damage than what it is, but it feels so just useless. So I don't know. That's why I think most people just end up dodging, because dodging just feels better to do than shield does.
Yeah,
or block.
Yeah. Well, even as a tank, it's useless, because if you equip a shield and a one-hander, you lose a ton of attack power, but you only gain passively, I think it's like 2% block or something like that, which is kind of ridiculous, especially with the giant shield from Befallen Forge. Like that just existing should give me 50% block. Just it's there, okay? It's on my side. It's covering half of my body. It should give me 50% block by holding it. But in game terms, I'm okay if it didn't give me 50% block, but there should be more than 2 or 3% by equipping it.
And Fasad was saying in chat, just real quick, that he was talking about the shield being worthless, and he goes, I think they should get rid of active blocking. As someone who's been a WoW player for 17 years, I really want them to not get rid of active blocking. It just needs to be worth a damn. Because
I like it. Early,
if you're choosing to block or dodge, right? If you choose to block, then you probably can't dodge afterwards, right? So it's a decision. It's a very instant decision-making process, whether it's PvE or PvP. And I like that. It just needs to be worth a damn.
Yeah, so real quick, like to respond to the dodge thing, and then I'll get back to the shield. Like the dodge thing, I think it's perfectly fine as is, because if you're dodging and that's all you're doing is avoiding attacks, you could literally you assign 2 people to just keep you dodging for the rest of the game. For the rest of the night, all you're doing is dodging. That's fine. You're out of the mix. Assign 1 person for that matter. That's all you're doing is dodging, then so be it. Enjoy that. Enjoy your dodge life. The rest of the combat's going to continue on as it is. And you're going to be dodging through random AoEs, and you're going to be dodging through people specifically targeting you, and you're going to do no damage. So I'm perfectly fine if you could dodge infinitely forever, take no damage while you're dodging, but then you're not going to be able to respawn. To me, that's whatever. But
Yeah.
with the shield thing, like as a tank, active blocking was fantastic because I could go in, I could initiate an encounter, I could AoE taunt a bunch of stuff, get it on me, seat some threat with some attacks, and then I could actively block to reduce the impact of my on my healer's mana, while also surveying the field and seeing anything else that might be coming to attack us and get ready to do a single target taunt if need be. I could get ready to do, you know, a dive over here because there's an AoE blast coming in I need to avoid, whatever. Like part of my strategy was I would always active block if I was anywhere near topped off on stamina. I would active block until my stamina reduced down below capping out. Like if I capped out stamina, I was not mitigating damage. That's lost mitigation as far as I was concerned. And that's lost magic points for my healer. That's lost magic points for anybody who's like passively trying to help, like bards, let's say. So it was an actual strategy I could use, and it felt good. But then they changed it, and now it's like, like the shield's useless at this time. So if they bring back shields being useful, I would love it as a tank, at least in PvE. PvP, maybe if they balance it well for PvP also.
Yeah, I know nice plays tank, and I know he's submitted to Intrepid. Their block chance doesn't seem to be working correctly. Like if you go, like we went back and looked at recordings from phase 1 and recordings from fights from a couple weeks ago, and the amount of block chance that you're getting is just so much lower right now. And so we submitted a report wondering if it's bugged because it doesn't seem to be working properly. And you know, one of our other tanks in our guild, I was dueling him on my ranger, and you know, due to the block chance just either not working correctly or being so low, he took his shield off and put a greatsword on. He's like, what's the point? Like he's like if you're gonna wind up a snipe in front of my face and I can't block it and it's just gonna hit me for 3k, like why should I even be wearing this thing? And so
I may as well run up and smack you in the face with the sword. Yeah.
He's like, I might as well punish you by tripping you and dealing more damage. And so he switched off the shield entirely for the exact same reason you said.
Crazy.
And so he's a great sword tank because the shield doesn't work very well right now. And there are definitely ways to balance active block. Like I don't think you need, like if you guys like the chance, you can tell me, but I personally would just like if you hit block, in my opinion, then you should block on that ability, but it should drain massive amounts of stamina. Like you should only be able to block 1, 2, maybe 3 attacks. And if you block the wrong ones, you get punished for it. You know, like that was your mistake. You were blocking, you know, a ranger's barrage, for instance, all those little rapid fires, and now you're out of stamina because you were blocking that. But you should have the ability to block a snipe. And, you know, then there's fun things that tanks can do. And then other classes could potentially look at that and they go, wow, maybe I don't stack in all weapons. Maybe I can actually have a defensive weapon and like increase my survival if that's what I want. And I think there's a way you could do that to where it feels more rewarding for a tank and it just feels better to defend yourself.
See,
I think shields should have their own talent tree in my mind.
Yeah. Every second hand, like offhand rather, should have its own weapon tree. I've always thought it would be more interesting if main hand and offhand had smaller, weaker weapon trees.
I'd be done with that.
You'd mix and match if you want defensive, offensive. Them. Yeah, exactly. Like how cool would it be to see a mage strategically using a freaking physical mitigation shield and a magical casting wand, for crying out loud, running around and just blasting tanks and fighters because they can, you know, actively and passively mitigate some physical damage at the same time as blasting out magic damage to take out the heavy armor wearers.
I think that'd be cool. I think it's an entire build design that you can choose to go into. Like instead of having more damage, you have more mitigation, and so you have a little bit more counterplay.
Yeah, full tilt battle mage. Like hell, go mage rogue and maybe get a little bit of, you know, stealth or like dashy mechanics to it. Man, that'd actually be a crazy combination, to be honest. Like if they got any kind of like minor stealth, like 1 or 2 seconds of stealth to some abilities with a secondary archetype as rogue, and be able to be a mage and be able to blink and go stealth for 3 seconds and just start blasting people with their magic physical mitigation shield and just live their dream.
Yeah. Just want to apologize that I've been back and forth AFK, just dad duties.
Oh, it's all good.
Oh, it's all good. Most noble duties ever.
This is very much like you're chilling at a tavern, not like a podcast. So
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
you're welcome to come and go as needed. Speaking of, though, I'm gonna probably skedaddle and leave this in Vertex hands because I have a sleep schedule.
Sounds nice.
I know, right?
Imagine that.
It's mainly because if I don't keep to my sleep schedule, it's always extremely hard. I found myself waking up to Vertex alarms because I didn't hear my own go off, and they went off for so long they stopped going off. So if I don't keep to my sleep schedule, I don't wake up on time. If I don't wake up on time, I'm gonna get fired by my boss. I kind of don't want that. So I'm trying something to keep myself from getting fired.
Fair enough.
Gotcha.
But you guys go ahead and keep the conversation going. If anybody else wants to come in and replace me, feel free. Just pop yourself into the queue and Vertex could drag you down. But I'm going to join you guys from the other side of the screen.
Take care. Rest well.
Have a good night.
Talk to you in the
Later.
morning. You'll
Later,
be passed out
Chibi.
before I'm done.
Yes.
Yoink. All right. But yeah, so like either way, like there's a lot that needs to be done with block for sure to make it more interesting and more useful. The shields especially, and like Facade said, like there's a lot of work that needs done on tanks. I really hope they take the Bard approach when it comes to looking at everything to make sure there's synergy between everything. I would love to see on a tank the capability for actively mitigated damage impacting some kind of skill or ability, or all skills and abilities, or just stacking, retaliation damage or something.
Yep.
Well, tank
Like,
just needs a whole freaking rework, like entirely. Like I feel like, and this is the thing too. I kind of think the fighter needs to, in my opinion, I think every class, but Bard and Rogue.
And you
need
know
a
what's
complete
funny
rework.
is nobody really thought that until Bard and Rogue came out, and then it was like, oh god, this type of setup is possible. What? That's crazy. Yeah, redo all of them.
Well, I'm sorry, no one. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I will say I think fighter's okay. It's not Bard and Rogue. I'll give you that. It definitely is, like, because Bard and Rogue are they're their own thing, and it's just there's like, I haven't played Bard. We have a few Bards in our guild that record gameplay, and it looks so much fun, man. I don't want to grind the gear for it in phase 2, so I'm not making one, but it looks so much fun. And
It is so much fun.
The Rogue is so much fun as well, and I had fun with fighter, but yeah, like I watch. And I'm not saying it to be mean. Like, I like to poke fun at clerics and everything just because it's fun. But cleric just looks so slow. Just looks so slow relative to everything else. And it just feels like you could add more to it. Tank has its little moments, but I feel like it could have more. Ranger.
Well, cleric is slow unless your party starts taking damage and you really need to react to it. Like in PvP situations, cleric is fast AF. Like there's so many things you can do. Some are instant, some are like a long cast, like your mend. You could throw it at one person, but it's going to fly around in the sky for 10 minutes before it hits them. So you need to start like pre-planning damage before you throw it, because if they dodge this way, the thing has to travel through the air slower than their dodge, and it'll never catch up to them if they keep dodging.
Sure.
But sorry, yeah, go ahead. You're continuing through some classes there.
No. That was basically it. It was just like, those two are in their own tier. Fighter, I think, is in a pretty good spot, and then a few other ones just need some more work.
In my opinion, the fighter and the ranger, and even the mage, probably not to that extent, but what it lacks in my mind is ability synergy. I feel like as a fighter or as a ranger. The tertiary reasons, what I mean by tertiary, meaning like stagger, chill, like those kind of things, doesn't offer enough of a rotational gameplay that seems engaging for me. Like setting up a knockdown on a fighter, okay, cool. Outside of doing that, I'm just pushing buttons. Like I'm pushing maim, I'm pushing whirlwind. I don't feel like there's really any kind of interconnection of ability synergy, of why I'm pushing these buttons in the rotation I'm doing them. I just feel like I'm just hitting buttons off cooldown. It's like whack-a-mole. It's whack-a-mole for ranger, it's whack-a-mole for fighter, and I don't like that. I want, especially because once we get 30 to 40 abilities, I really want there to be like little buckets of abilities that talk to each other. So, you know, maybe like 2 to 3, because then you can decide what your rotation is, you know, at the end of the day, right? And
Yes.
you know, it's like these abilities talk to each other, these abilities talk to each other, and these abilities talk to each other. Even though in this pool, I'm only selecting one of these abilities because I want it for this specific thing that's for me. Like why? Because I like it. And if nothing truly talks to each other, then you're just picking whatever abilities are the hardest hitting, numerical, like, you know what I mean? Like it just, if there isn't that, then it's just, I feel like the decision making is not as engaging, and that's what makes me very disappointed, because that's the one aspect of talent tree customization. As someone who really values that, that's what I look forward to, is really looking at ability synergies, or, you know, passives that interact with certain abilities together, especially when there's like multiple abilities that can be affected, you know, by something. Having that moment-to-moment decision making, like we were talking about earlier with dodge and block. Like, well, if you block, then you probably can't dodge. And I kind of like it with abilities that way, where it's like, well, if I do this, if I hit this ability, then hitting this next ability I shouldn't do yet until either A happens, which is either a crit. If it crits, then I can do this other ability. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, that's the thing that I look forward to, and it just is not present at all in those classes.
Yeah. And there's I know for tank there's, and this is going to sound really exciting until I explain them, but there's I think 3 synergies that can impact 7 skills combined, maybe 8. And the synergies are: tank auto attacks cause stagger, and we have a skill that when you hit it, any staggered targets in front of you will be tripped, but you have to stagger them before the trip takes effect, so you literally can't use the second skill until you've auto attacked long enough to stagger everything. So it's not like you can jump into a PvP mess and just like trip a whole group of people. You have to jump in there, auto attack for like 3 seconds, and then you can trip everybody. So it's basically a PvE skill. It really is.
Yeah, sure.
There's so then there's trip into one specific skill that's called pulverize, and then you take the passive augment, which is punish, and it does it's a guaranteed crit against a trip target. So if you trip somebody, you can do to one single target, you can do a guaranteed crit, which is really kind of cool if you stack
cool.
critical damage. I mean, that's my bread and butter. Like, that's my damage output. But then there is Indomitable Spirit, which gives you 30% more health and 30% more inbound healing, which will impact your Shake It Off, so you get more health back. Like, those kind of have to be used together. You have to, if you're going to use Indomitable Spirit, you're using it because you're about to hit Shake It Off to gain more health back. Or I believe it also impacts both of your shield abilities, your banner, or the mirror ball people call it, and your intercepts.
Okay.
And that's it. Those are our synergies. But it's, if I don't recall myself ever hitting Indomitable Spirit by itself without planning to hit a second button, because you have to hit that second button, and that second button is only useful if you are already using Indomitable Spirit.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's almost like you have to, like a fighting game, you have to use those combos together, or else it's useless. But sorry, go ahead.
Yep. No, you're good. And I just wanted to kind of piggyback off that. When I did my Ranger video, Vladis reminded me of what he said. And, you know, a lot, like I started the video off with, hey, like, I know secondary archetypes are coming, and I know that what I'm saying right now might be solved with secondary archetypes. Like my big thing with Ranger is, like, I want more single target abilities. I want that depth, like Vladis said. I want cool, unique skills and abilities to where like I look like a skilled ranged bowman out there, like applying abilities, not just AoEs. And so that was my perspective. And like, you need to have that base down, right? Like your first archetype has to have that really strong feel for what it is. And in that sense, I do agree. Like with a fighter specifically, it's like that. It's just a lot of trip mechanics. I'm not trying to get fighters nerfed or anything. I'm not trying to get fighters nerfed, guys. Nobody yell at me. But it's just like it's trip and it's wound. And in the current TTK, like wound doesn't feel like it's not impactful right now with TTK where it's at. And it's just a lot of trip mechanics. And it's like you can have a little bit more, like you said, a little bit more depth there. And and that goes right in line with what you were saying, Vertec, where you have like AoE stagger. It's like you could have a little bit more depth here on different skills, not just if A then B. If it's A, but if this happens, it's B, and if this happens, it's C. You know, like then you can have a little bit more things to do.
Well, and I think you're and this is what I was trying, or not trying, but I remember telling is that the passive tree within the basic talent tree should be the remedy of what you're wanting. No one like if you want more single target abilities, then there should be, in my opinion, there's way too little passives. There's some abilities that have 0 passives. You just pick the ability as is, and there's no transformation. And again, this is all super early. Completely get it, completely understand. However, my thing is that I want the augment system to definitely augment abilities in the way of whatever archetype you pick, whether it's like a mage and you want to go fire, you want to go frost, lightning, teleportation. But before you even do that, you should already have the kind of kit, the kind of abilities, the kind of passives that you wanted for those abilities to be synergized. It's just the augment system does it even further. Like I don't think the augment system should be the answer. It should be the cream and the cherry on top, really. Like it shouldn't be the remedy.
It should it should absolutely be like a tiered system. Like there should be a pyramid to it, right? Like you have your base, your basic archetype. And by the time you hit level 10, you should have a good feel for what that archetype is supposed to accomplish in the game as a general idea, right? You should really fit into that. This is my purpose in the game. You hit level 10, you get access to another tier of skills, and that's going to be a defining skill that you're like, okay, this is what a tank is supposed to feel like. This is what a ranger is supposed to feel like. This is what a bard is supposed to do. Like this helps define my purpose, right? And once you hit that, then you build further on that. You explore that further until you hit 25, and you're like, okay, now that I really know what my purpose is, and I've gotten these other things that spread it out and branch it out a little bit, now I can make a heavy swerve in a specific direction. So now I get access to a secondary archetype, and now I can augment my exact play style the way I really want to, based on my archetype limitations that I discovered up to level 10, like what my purpose is. And then the branching of how I can play with synergies and whatnot amongst my skills between 10 and 25. And now I really know where I want to go with it. Now I'm going to try these secondary archetypes.
And the thing with passives with the fighter specifically is that I want fighter to have passives for certain abilities that goes into armor pen, goes into bleeds, goes into like other tertiary, like you talk about just tripping all the time. Like I agree, like stagger is a cool mechanic, but I mean, there's other tertiary stats that we can also kind of favor.
Do other things.
Yeah, exactly. And I think depending on what you as a fighter want to do, you should choose that. What I don't like is that they're almost pigeonholing fighters to just go to stagger. Like you're a stagger fighter. And I don't, and that's the problem I even have with tanks, right? Like I think tanks and clerics, and I've always said this, is that they should have at the base tree different ways on how to heal or different ways on how to tank, because I've heard so much feedback from just the community and just brand new people that come in the community that are very, bothered, I guess is the word is, or nervous, because they look at the talent tree and they're like, well, there's really only kind of one way to tank. There's, really one way to heal. And, if you're coming from other MMOs that have been around for almost 20 years, like you have your pick of the litter of what kind of tank you want to be, what kind of healer you want to be, but you don't at all when it comes to Ashes. And those are the two most important parts of the Trinity, is tank and heals. It's just so,
that brings a whole other point of discussion if it's not too far of a like an offshoot, like a tangent here. But Steven said before that basically if you want to be the most effective, insert whatever, that you need to double down on the same archetype. And by most effective, he flat out said that if you want to be a main tank in a raid, you're going to be a tank. And that was basically a flat out statement.
Yeah,
like, how do you feel about that? Like, if you're going to get a 10, 15, 20%, not like damage or whatever, but literally a performance of your specific role reduction to the point where you can't really be as competitive to that same tier by choosing a different secondary archetype. Do you like the thought of that, or does that kind of turn you off of the double archetype system?
For me, it completely turns me off. I think if you want to truly be a tank, you pick the tank class at character creator. You know what I mean? Like I just find that to be such a weird statement. And I think if you do play tank, of course you're going to go deeper. There probably is going to be more stuff you can do, as a tank, or even be a better tank. But you should be totally efficient as a tank just by being a primary tank. And that's like saying, well, you're not really a healer until you go cleric. That just seems weird. No, you picked healer, cleric at character creator. You should be totally an effective healer. And again, the options for how you do those things should be available for you at the passive talent tree. Again, the augment system should be the flavoring, like they always talked about, right? Should be the thing that really drives you into a certain thing, like depending if if I'm a tank, but I don't want to be a tank. I actually really like the augments that the rogue provides. Like, I want to go more into that because that just seems really cool to me. Like, I don't want to feel, especially in a world of min-maxing, I don't want to make a video. I'm pretty sure no one does want to make a video where, well, guys, if you really want to be an effective rogue, you have to be a rogue. Or you have to be like the double archetype. Like, that's just going to be trash. Like, I don't think anybody's going to like that.
Yeah.
I agree. My perspective on it is I think that the augments should be there exactly to do that, to augment the main archetype in whatever way they have to attempt to balance those, and then you let the players decide. You let the players decide on content, like what you were just talking about. So if you're going to be a tank and you want to be tank, that tank augment should be mitigation, right? Like you're going to be a thick boy if you're going tank. Like that's what you are. That's what you're about. And people are making that decision, and that's fine. But if you go rogue, hypothetically, maybe you get evasion. And so instead of having mitigation, you're dodging attacks, right? Or if you go ranger, you're getting stamina, stuff like that. And so then you let the players decide how they want to play. And if you keep it open like that, like what you guys are talking about, the players come up with some really cool shit. Like they just do. Like there's so many things that players find and discover that are unintended that turn out really cool. And all of a sudden you have a whole unique play style that just never existed before, or exists in a separate form on Ashes that doesn't exist on other MMOs. And that's what's going to make, in my opinion, that's what's going to make a game like this unique, is those things being allowed to shine through based off of the content that you're in.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And evasion, there should be evasion passives with abilities at the base level for tank. There should be, lifesteal abilities. Like, again, I wish, and I've said this before too, I really love masteries from the Bard. I think every primary archetype should have masteries. I think the cleric and the tank should have probably the most masteries because, again, they're the two most important parts of the Trinity. But I think if a DPS class had 3 masteries to choose from, and depending on which mastery kind of pigeonholes you into a certain way because that's what you're choosing to do, I wouldn't mind that at all. Again, you need to offer flexibility at a very early level to offer different ways to express themselves, because the other problem that I fear is a person that's on the fence with Ashes going to even level to 25 to then even try what Vertek was talking about. Now you're a tank. Now you can be a tank, a tank rogue, a tank bard, and now you can start truly transforming your abilities in a way that's like the way you wanted to the whole time.
Yeah, really.
Are they going to wait 100 plus hours? I don't know.
Yeah, really incorporate those schools of augmentation. But yeah, that's my big thing, is it's going to be difficult to really balance all 64 classes. And I think that might be why they decided to go with the, double up of archetype is going to be the most effective. And we'll just call it that. That's the one we're going to we're going to work all balance changes around, and everything else is going to be kind of secondary. Like, we'll do what we can, but we're not going to worry about it too much. If anything, we'll aim to be under. That way it doesn't overpower somebody accidentally by choosing a certain secondary. And just to make life easier and simple going forward. Which, I mean, you can't really argue too much against that, except that I think it is going to remove some depth, because mainly, as you said, Vladis, there's going to be tanks and clerics are going to be the two that are going to have to double up, like they have to. They're the absolute most essential to perform at peak capacity. The two that are absolutely most essential. Other than that, the other thing that's going to be essential to perform at peak capacity is somebody who can do kicks and interrupts. After that, damage can take as long as it needs to, as long as the boss doesn't have a crazy enrage timer, which we already know that the fights in Ashes aren't going to be highly tuned because it's been stated directly and clearly by Intrepid a couple times. So I don't think we're going to need to worry too much about enrage timers. So DPS, as Chibi said earlier, I think you're going to have the most fun with secondary archetypes, and tanks and clerics are going to be like, they're going to double up when it comes to challenging content, and they're only going to be able to have fun with the secondary archetype when they're just goofing around or doing easier content.
I really hope you're wrong. I really hope you're wrong.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to. I'm not trying to spread too much doom and gloom, but like as an example, and this will be the only thing I say in this that's doomy in this regard, is, you know, the one of the previous MMOs that I played before this was the Elder Scrolls Online. That I know I've said that before, but when they introduced hybridization, before that they had stamina and magicka based builds. That's what they called them. So you had your stam and magicka builds, and then they allowed hybridization to where you could do both. And what happened was, because they didn't balance the stamina and magicka abilities well, everybody chose the same skills and abilities on the same classes. And so what ended up happening is everybody was then running the same build. And some people, you know, like Vladis, you're unique. I've seen you running around on multiple different archetypes. Like you're playing a bunch of different things. Some people only want to play tank, right? Like some people only want to be a tank. Some people only want to be a rogue. But you need that flair or build diversity to where, like, if you get tired of playing rogue in a certain way, you could play it in a different way, you know, and you get a different play style, and it opens stuff up. And so this is why, like, you know, Vladis and I have always been in lockstep on what we want out of the augment system, because it's like, this is going to, if it's done well, this will add hundreds of hours of gameplay to every single person that loves a specific archetype. So like, if Vertec, if you love tank, and all of a sudden you get bored for a little bit and you're like, oh man, I want to go tank cleric, you know, I want to have some off healing, and all of a sudden it feels like it amplifies the tank to where you get to play it differently, and you're providing different effects and buffs to your group. Now you're going to continue playing. You're not going to go play a different game because it feels like you're playing a different game because your archetype changed drastically.
Right. I just don't want, you know, and again, I like I mentioned earlier that about flavor, I do want augments to be fun and transformative. I do. I don't want them to be dull. But I don't want people to also feel pigeonholed into doing the double archetype, especially tanks and clerics. Like I, you know, he always talked about blitz, right? Like, oh, you know, if you add a fire augment as a mage, it's going to leave like a fire trail. And it's like, okay, like that's fine. And I've asked ChatGPT, I've asked Grok, like, what could be more transformative than just leaving a burning trail on the floor? You know, and what was really crazy was they made it went transform from blitz into phoenix wing, and this is what Grok came up with, where you literally leap into the air, you sprout phoenix wings, and you stay in the air, like almost like gliding down slowly, and then you can choose to blitz again in the air, and you almost like heroic leap onto an area, and it causes like a volcanic eruption that happens and leaves like a burning thing. That to me seems fun and transformative, and does pretty much like what you would expect an augment to kind of do in that way. But I understand that doing very unique things like that 9,000 times, because again, this is the system they created with 64 class system, like with 4 schools of augmentation per class, we're not going to be finished with making this game until 2035. You know what I'm saying? So I understand that it's going to be a process, but my thing is that I would rather start off with like more flavored stuff, but the end goal is to become more transformative, right? Like that's to me like my compromise with them is like, look, I didn't come up with the 64 class system. I've always been sort of negative about the system because I just think you could have just done a more traditional class system and just again rolled different classes eventually, because that's the other thing too. When you people are like, well, wait a minute, like is Ashes ever going to introduce like another class eventually, like a druid or something like that? And I'm like, well, I don't know, because then we would go from 64 to 81 classes by adding
it's
druid.
going to be a very large change right there.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just going to be very interesting to say the least.
Yeah. So I mean, kind of like no one was saying there. I don't want to introduce doom and gloom to the conversation necessarily, because I don't really feel that way. I hope that they end up seeing how it plays out and that they decide that there should be more balance between them, and that it should be equally viable to do a tank rogue as a tank or a tank whatever as a tank, even if there's like a minuscule amount of difference between them, as far as like they're aiming for like a 5% difference. I'm cool with a 5%, it's fine. But the statement that the viable tank to main tank a raid should be tank, that's the one statement right there that kind of brought me up short. Like, wait a minute, whoa. If every other tank has to be a secondary, and the insert whatever archetype, like a Bard X tank, is only viable for maybe grabbing a couple adds, that feels kind of like a huge step away from what I was imagining for the system to be. I was thinking tank / whatever could be a main tank, and whatever / tank could be a secondary. And then it was up to player skill beyond that. That's what I was hoping for with it. But I mean, time will tell. I mean, as has been said once or twice in the past, this isn't alpha currently. This is currently an evolving process. There's plenty to learn and plenty to explore, and plenty yet to be introduced that then needs to be tested. So there's plenty of time to adjust things and plenty of time to see how it will play out.
I wanted to ask Noah a question. What do you think of the ranger changes within
No
the
one
focus and
no one might
Salvo?
be AFK still.
Oh, is he gone? Oh, okay. I'm so curious because
yeah, that stuff.
I totally feel. I don't. One of my guildies was talking about it, and he's like, it kind of feels the same. Like they just, I don't. He goes, people were calling it like the Ranger rework, and it's like I don't think it's really a rework. It's more of just an addition, right? They just added focus, they added 2 abilities, and that's pretty much it. Like everything else is just really ineffective. So I don't know. I'm really curious to see like what no one thinks about it, because I still feel like there's way deeper work that needs to happen with not just the Ranger still, but definitely other classes.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I've heard between other Rangers I've spoken with, is like, it's another mechanic. They've introduced it, and now they're going to be able to do something with it down the line. But right now it's not really doing anything. And by the way, Marmalade, thank you for hopping on in. Welcome to the community. Welcome to just Ashes in general. Hopefully you decide to join us. If you do, there is a large number of people that are more than welcome to answer any questions, help out, and just conversate with you. Feel free to hop in our channel here and say hello, or ask us and we'll direct you to somebody who's more, down your vein of type of content you like to see. We have a couple varieties in chat right meow. Vladis and No One are two of our most loved friends. They have some great insight.
Oh,
so feel free to check them out. But yeah, that's one thing I hope they do something interesting with, is the focus mechanic.
Yeah, well, the thing is that like when I talked about masteries earlier, I would love, and I don't think this is going to happen, but I would love if, as a tank mastery, it changed your resource. So like if you want to use courage because that's what you like to use, but then if like, let's say you had like a different mastery that completely changes your resource mechanic as a tank, right? To like something different, like, so it's like a literal different style of gameplay. Like I think that would be really, really, really cool. And maybe it's my WoW brain, because again, managing resources on tanks and WoW is just so different from like all of them, and how you dump your resource or how you generate your resource, like how you play with your resource during certain times. I think it's very cool. I haven't really heard much of like grit, and it's more engaging now, but it's very basic. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just really curious, like if
For grit,
they were to do that, like how they would do it.
grit is not more engaging now. It's more
I know that's what people say
bothersome.
too. I don't know.
Bothersome is the right word. It's more bothersome now. It's not engaging. It doesn't
Yeah.
engage my anything except for, I keep forgetting to hit that stupid button every 9 seconds.
Yeah.
Ugh. Like, it's not even a strategic use. It's not even like it does something that then also gives me a thing that does this thing and whatever. And I can interweave it with stuff to be strategic about. And no, it's just, I have to hit it every 9 seconds or else I suck. That's what it is. I have to hit it. I have to hit it once, and then I have to hit it again, and then I have to hit it every 9 seconds afterwards. And it's just stupid. It's a must hit. It's a timer. It's a timer. Okay. I'm going to set up, there are monitors now that they have AI built in to like scan the screen and tell you stuff. And that mechanic right there leads me to say, you know what? I'm going to buy one of those monitors. I'm going to program it to watch my grit meter. And whenever it gets at the 9 second mark, it's just going to pop an alert on the screen and say, hit grit. The end. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to do. And that's going to completely erase it and take it back to just being a standard existing thing where I hit the button and it stays on, except it's going to be far less powerful.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, classes have a ways to go, and I'm not really too worried about it because I know that we're probably still about 2 or 3 years away from the live launch. So it's not too much of like a hasty thing or whatever. And I think the true reworks are going to happen once the summoner is done, because then we have all 8 primary archetypes available for players to play. Now we can start working on augments on top of reworks. So that's what I think the two focuses are going to be once the summoner is done. And I think the first class they need to work on after tank or after summoner is tank. 100% tank. Please work on the tank. Bucky, work on tank.
I mean, yeah, that and just, there's a bunch of classes that need some stuff. And at this point, again, with the whole disclaimer, it is an alpha, et cetera, like it's to be expected. So it's not even like a downer point so much as just, it's a realization that we've come to know that we need to live with until it's changed. And so be it. Right now, it doesn't feel miserable. It just feels like there's room for improvement. And again, I didn't feel that with a tank until I played Bard. I played Bard and my world changed. And now I've always main tanked on every single game I've played since the beginning of discovering the holy trinity of heal, tank, DPS. I've always played tank, and that's always been my main. And right now I'm struggling really hard to stay on my tank. Even after the TTK change, I'm like, but Bard is so much fun. Like, it's the opposite of a tank, right? It's got so many skills and you need to completely be popping them all the time. You need to angle them properly, hit the entire group, or just the people you need to get that specific thing, because it's going to spread like 3 pulses of a certain thing, and it's going to hit whoever needs it the most in your field of view. So you need to aim at it, the whole group, to spread out the love, or aim strategically. You stand in the middle of the group and face one direction to hit only 2 people every single time. And there's strategy and movement and dynamics behind it, and it's crazy and like fast paced, and you need to constantly be hitting buttons and constantly be doing a thing, both offensive and defensive and supportive, all of the above at the same time. It's the opposite of what I feel a tank should be. A tank should be sturdy, solid, control, impactful. You feel when you hit something, you feel the impact of, like, I'm going to toss a shield out on people. There should be a giant effing shield. Like, I'm gonna intercept somebody. It should be a massive, like, a thing that happens. Like, you dive to that person, you stun everything around them, and you shield them. And I mean, maybe not stun. I mean, that might be a little bit excessive, but you do something around them. Not just you boop over to them and you give them a 500 hit point, like, shield real quick. It doesn't feel as impactful as I think a tank should feel. Like, it should be very much like determination. Like, a tank in one-on-one should live forever. It should be like an equivalent to a cleric. A cleric tank fight should take forever and nobody dies ever. It should just tank for. It'll just be like on a PvP battlefield, a tank and a cleric run into each other solo, and they just look at each other and be like, "Hey, bye," and they just walk other directions. They don't even bother trying to instigate a fight because it's just not going to end.
Well, it's kind of like the rock paper scissors, right? Like, so if both of our rocks, it's a stalemate.
Yeah, and
Like,
that's how it should.
and
That's
that's
how I
what it
think it
is.
should be. But like a tank will not keep itself alive forever. It will not. I guarantee. Like at the current way it's set up, there's no way for it to. It's just not the I'm going to be stalwart and I'm going to survive this encounter. It's not that right now. It needs to be that.
Right.
It really, really does.
It's a lot better this last week. Like
It is a lot better.
Stronger.
That's right. No, and you missed this. I was talking about one of the few tests I was able to do because I only had an hour and a half in the PTR, and then I had the entire Mead Quest Monday yesterday to do it, but nobody was doing anything. Nobody wanted to tank in a PvE group. I didn't find a caravan to like harass on the way, or even say, "Hey, I'll help protect you all the way as long as I can launch a new caravan and you just duel me for like 30 minutes while I test things." Like there was nobody I knew like personally online to be like, "Hey, can we just like fight in a corner of the world for a little bit? I just want to test some things." There was nobody doing anything. So I ended up just exploring. But what I did do is I went up to Grave Peak and I found one of the wolves at the front gate. It's like I think a 3-star level 20 or 2-star level 20. Yeah. And it used to be a 30-second fight before I would have to run the F away because my tank could not kill it and I would not survive if I stood there any longer. It was like a 30-second. I would be able to pop my my big survival skill to get enough health to get the F out of there. And last night it lasted like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. It was crazy. It was like 3 times as long as I lasted. Same outcome. I still had to run away with my tail between my legs because that wolf was eating me apart. But I was able to last longer doing it. So that felt good. It was a step in the right direction. It was a giant step in the right direction. But yeah, I still don't quite think with the current selection of skills and the way they work together, I don't feel like that tank role. I feel like it's almost a tank. Like I feel, you know what? I feel like it's a fighter tank right now. It's a fighter tank class with the fighter being the primary and tank being the secondary. That's kind of what it feels like to me right now. Sure. Well, maybe tank fighter, I guess, because it doesn't even have like the hard hitting impact of a fighter as a primary. So yeah, tank fighter is about what I would expect it to feel like.
Yeah, this last week has changed quite a bit functionality, and when I talk about like a lot of these archetypes, I really try to separate the actual effectiveness of the archetype and how fun it is. You know, like how useful and effective it is, because you can buff skills, you can nerf skills, like you can tweak and balance things, but does it flow, right? Like does the kit feel like it makes sense to move from one skill to the next, from one ability to the next? And that's what I've kind of noticed. I mean, from the outside looking in with tanks, like it just kind of feels, I don't know the best way to put it. It just feels very like, relative to some of the other archetypes, it looks very rudimentary to play. Like there's not a ton of depth to the play style. And so that I think that's where it's really lacking. And you know, to say two other things in that vein, yes, we are in a testing phase, but and they are working on these things. Like I remember, like we had a big discussion about the Ranger on Vladis's podcast, and like a week or two after, they came out with some nice Ranger changes, you know, like with things that we were talking about. We're like, hey, there's too many passive abilities. It'd be nice to have some active skills, and they made those adjustments. Hey, it'd be nice to have some single target abilities. They gave us another single target ability. And so it's cool that good feedback is being listened to by them, and they're receptive to it. And I know a few people are working on tank changes. They're really trying to get that feeling in the same way, because everybody sees it, right? Like everybody sees how good Bard and Rogue is, and it's like, hey man, like if you can get every archetype up to this, like we're cooking. Like we're really cooking. Everybody's gonna be happy. It's just, you know, we just gotta iterate there.
Oh, and by the way, I brought in Erwin there, but real quick, before we continue that vein, I just want to catch up on chat just a little bit here. So to comment on what Stream Team is speaking of, I feel as though the Ranger feels bad because of the stat stick, or every class holding every weapon. A mage using a bow with the same passives and the same things the Ranger has doesn't give the Ranger the ability to feel different, says Duffles.
I agree with that.
Wizard saying courage has felt different since this patch and how it is built up, and that's true. You're also spending it on different things and etc. etc. But Facade Grit says Grit needs to be changed back to a toggle. Yes. My gosh. Yes. To follow that up, Hammer Chief says if you have me smash Grit every 8 seconds, you might as well have me smash Iron Ore every time. And if I'm being honest, I would rather it be the other direction, because sometimes I don't need to have that extra damage mitigation when it comes to Iron Aura, like the flat, like everybody around me gets that, because maybe I'm solo. Grit being on feels more like I am a tank, and Iron Ore feels like I am a tank supporting my party. So if they reverse the two, I'd feel better. It would still suck, don't get me wrong. Please, Intrepid, don't do that. But it would still feel wrong, but I would feel better if it were the other way around. Stealth POV says, and with the topic of tanks, Grit needing to be a toggle again, Rogue needs a toggle for allies. I don't know what, maybe allies in a 15-meter range have a crit chance defense or something.
Well, and I said this during the tank showcase, the tank roundtable that we had. I think the tank and cleric should have the most amount of abilities. I think 30 to 40 is too little, in my opinion. I think they need to have anywhere between probably 40 to 50, if not a little bit more. I just think they need more, because tanks and clerics need to have the most amount of variety compared to any other class in Ashes. So in order to do that, you need more passives and you need more active abilities to pick. And that's why I kind of want buckets, right? Like abilities speaking to each other, because like you can have the current Grit and the old Grit on this talent tree, right? So you can choose what playstyle you want. Do you want the more active, hidden every 9 seconds, or do you want the more passive style? Do you want, a different resource mechanic to use, like something similar to like the Brewmaster Monk in WoW, compared to Courage? Like, I think if you start out offering different things like that, tanks are going to feel.
By the way,
yeah, I know it is nuts.
Brewmaster is great.
Yeah, it's a fun class to tank on, but it's so different compared to a Death Knight, compared to a Protection Warrior. And that's what main tanks that I've talked to are looking for. They're looking for very pivotal changes of completely altering how they choose to tank. And I think if they can add that in the base talent tree, oh my God, like you're going to make because again, then that's going to mean more people playing the two most important archetypes in this game. Because what happens in every MMO, looking for tank, looking for healer, right? But if there's only one option for each, I think it could actually be the opposite problem, where you actually might be looking more for a specific DPS, because if there's a lot of people playing cleric, a lot of people playing tank, that's a good world to live in my mind as an MMO player.
One competitive option for each, and they're boring. If that were the case, then it's going to be even worse. Can be even worse than every other MMO out there. So I think they need to have special attention paid for sure. Not like extra, just special, to make sure that they definitely have that feeling of this is worth playing. This is worth doing the thing, because it really fits that class fantasy that people have when they think of a tank type. I still want to come up with a better word for that. Oh my gosh. The tank type feeling, like what tank classes are in other games. Like what they all have in common is the protector, the meat shield of one shape or another, be it a self-healing meat shield or a meat shield made of stone or whatever the case is. Like they're the ones that stand in front of everybody and just take hits to the face and laugh about it for the longest time. And especially if they have a healer along, then they're just invincible, right? Mm-hmm. But by the way, welcome in, Erwin. How you doing?
Howdy, doing great. Been loving this conversation. I was updating a couple firewalls, and I'm like, I really want to get in on this, but I got to work.
Yeah. All right. So what do you got? What did you want to chime in on?
On the whole tank thing, I think I was also working when Vladis was in here the last time for our last Tavern Talk.
Mhm.
However, signature entry real quick.
There you go.
And then on that grit thing, I don't know. I need you guys to tell me if I'm just blowing smoke, but the auto attack feature, you know how you proc your weapon combos, either deadly or the finishers. I think there should be some sort of renewal for grit incorporated into the finisher. So you pop grit because you want that mitigation, and you just make sure you're auto attacking every like 3 or 4, seconds, and it's like, okay, we're re-procking grit by procking a finisher.
I think that would be pretty cool for a passive on grit in the skill tree.
Yeah. Versus the one that you were talking about was active or set to active where you're pushing it every 6 seconds. That could be a more proactive grit where, it's not still consuming mana for pushing it or anything like that. It's a different, measure.
See, that would make it much more interesting than it is right now. But at the same time, I am 100% in the group of I want grit to go back to exactly how it used to be, for multiple reasons. For one, I think a tank is a tank, and a tank should feel like a tank by being a tank, right? So just existing as the tank archetype, there should be a boost to what your mitigation stat is. You trained your entire life to be a tank. You learn to use the armor. You learn to use armor effectively. Defensive techniques are your big thing. Hey there, Peoria. Thanks for raiding on in with 26 friends. Oh my gosh. Cheers to you. Cheers to everybody. Welcome on in. For those who are unfamiliar with the tavern, please note that this is only one half of the tavern. There's a giant space up in the top right of this screen right now. That is supposed to house a chibi. She is amazing and she is fantastic. She's my partner in crime and tavern duties. She is currently typing in chat as TGF Tavern. But we cover a lot of different stuff. Saturdays, every other Saturday, I should say, we do a main podcast where we bring in a guest and we have a more structured format and we talk about certain things and we introduce that guest to everybody out there in the world of Vera. Mondays, we do a Mead Quest, which is basically us playing a game. It used to be random games. Now it is Ashes. For the most part, we might want to take a break every once in a while. And we just hang out with people, talk Ashes, and play a game. It's chill. Tuesdays are chill. Tavern talk. Imagine you're sitting in a tavern, having a drink with your friends, just chatting. That's what we're doing. We're bullshitting, shooting the breeze. And yeah, so welcome on in. Join the chat. Feel free to toss in questions. We love questions. We love talking to people. And yeah. Where were we? Oh yes, we were talking about tank stuff, I think.
Yep, tank stuff. Talking about grit and having both options and why you want the old option and stuff like that.
Yeah, tank should be a tank because a tank is a tank. In the same way that I think that warriors should have, a bonus to using a two-handed sword, or fighters rather. There should just be things that define certain archetypes, and they should get bonuses and perks to their specific class fantasy type of tweak. Mages get an extra 5% or 2% bonus to magic power that they receive, specifically magic power or something. It'd be great, I think, to do that, where they all have their own thing. They can use the same gear, but they get different perks based on whatever archetype they are. I think tanks should have more mitigation out of the same armor because they've trained to use that armor for protecting themselves and other people. For taking a hit, right. Learning to take a hit properly, make it a glancing blow instead of a direct blow, that type of thing. It saves your armor durability. It also saves the actual impact that you receive from it. And to support that idea, grit just existing and giving 50% of your physical mitigation to your magic and vice versa, it just makes sense. They both contribute to the other. It helps bolster your defenses. You get, and this is possibly the biggest part on making it a toggle instead of just an existing thing that just happens, is it increased your threat generation by turning grit on. That means that there is a clear delineation between main tank and off tank. If you're an off tank, you turn grit off, the end. Main tank, turn it on. You're going to generate more threat. If you need to transfer a threat, let the main tank hold it with their grit on for a while. You switch yours on as the off tank. About what you would gauge is halfway before you need to taunt off. And then you start building threat again. And then you jack all of your threat generation up as high as you can using all your threat abilities right before you need to take it. And then the main tank turns theirs off right before they need to lose it. And that's it. It's more of a dance. It's more of a, creative use of that one mechanic where you're turning grit on and off, and you're switching out main and off tanks, and there's a clear delineation. Like an off tank can go full damage build, turn off grit, and not really take threat if the main tank has grit on and is actively hitting the right buttons to maintain threat.
Well, I'm gonna have to dip out. I'm gonna go to bed because I have to wake up early in the morning. But thank you, Vertec, for doing the tavern talk. No one. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah,
you guys have a good one, and I will see you guys later.
Till next time.
Hi, Vladis. Rest well. Take care.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. But yeah. I know. No one. Do you actually actively play tank?
I do not. I leveled a tank to 5. And then I stopped because Rogue was coming out, and Rogue is one of my top. It's
nice.
For me. It's like I know my main's going to be Rogue or Fighter, and so I'm just debating between the two. And so I got rid of the tank, and I said I'll bring it back for phase 3 at some point. So I will eventually play everything, but I haven't played it yet.
Okay. Yeah, that's me. I want to eventually play all the different archetypes. At least the archetype, maybe not different classes, because that'll be a chore in itself.
Right.
But
Yeah.
at least the different archetypes. That way, I have an understanding of what they're dealing with, the kind of things they can do, and some basic capabilities. Just so, if I'm playing a tank or a healer, which are my typical first and second choice for the characters I main, I'll know what they're working with, and I know what to expect out of them. Like, hey, I need you have these skills, you can kick. Just effing kick. That's all I need you to do. Just kick, okay? You can stand there and twiddle your thumbs and hit slash dance, just kick every time it's needed. That's all I need out of you. You have 7 kicks, do it. But what would you consider your main that you're aiming for? Whether you're actually maining it right now or not.
For me, it right now would be Rogue. I need to. My Rogue's 23. I have to get it to 25, and then I want to get some group in before phase 3, because I want to see like it looks like it really depends. Like that's what I want to play, but I might have to have like 2 archetypes depending on how effective it is in group play. So, but yeah, I just love Rogue right now. It's
Same.
Like I love fast, kitey play styles, high damage, and it's got all of that. It's so much fun.
Rogue
Mobility.
has so much stuff in it. Oh my gosh, I've only played it on the PTR so far. I haven't actually built it and leveled it out, but my lordy, there is so much stuff you can do. And I don't think anybody who hasn't tried the Rogue would even be able to understand that statement. But there is so much you can do, so many different builds you can have.
Oh yeah.
It's bananas. And all of them.
There's definitely there's definitely some skills that need to be adjusted for sure.
Oh, yeah.
There's definitely some things that need to get that need to get fixed. But even without that,
I don't know what you're talking about. First pass, perfect pass. The end.
It just flows so well.
It
Like we were
does.
talking about how tank doesn't feel right sometimes. Rogue feels right going from skill to skill. It feels really good, except for feint. Like that's the only skill that I'm not a big
But
fan.
they fixed they did fix the movement.
Oh, did they?
Oh
'Cause
yeah.
I'm still okay. Because I was dashing past people still
yeah.
yesterday. So
Oh wait,
They said they fixed it. I tested it twice before I got kicked off. So
on the
Feint.
PTR today.
yeah.
Oh,
So-
thank God.
what
Thank
was
you
broken
so
about
much.
feint? Feint was the one where
So-
you could you're facing them, you could dive around to the back behind them, right?
Correct. So while we were leveling Vertec, and I don't know if you were there on your priest or not, but I would dash behind mobs over there in Ruins of Seth,
Mhm.
and I'd be stuck in the stair because I went too far. but because I was in a dashing animation, it doesn't have a reaction rule for what happens when a rogue hits dash and hits the stair. So I was just literally stuck in a dashing mode the whole time up there. Couldn't move. I had to wait for the dash mechanic to come back, and then I could dash back out of it. But that was it.
Oh wow, that's crazy. That's crazy.
It was horrendous. But to what no one was talking about, the flow. There's a good story behind it, but we were, I should say, I was soloing Hall's Adjudication on my rogue. We're talking easiest pulls. 10 to 20 pulls.
Yeah.
Sometimes it all depends on what cooldowns are up.
Grabbing the whole room.
Yeah, Vertec comes in here and goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm just grinding Hall's Adjudication. What are you doing?" He's all, "Well, you need a cleric," and I go, "Well, no, I don't, but I won't say no." And so he shows up, and I said, "Okay, let me run you in here real quick, and I need you to stand in this corner." And he's okay, and I'm like, "Just watch." And so I went and pulled that whole that giant left room as you're in there, and just kill everything up on the little mantelpiece.
I tried to drop my little AoE heal /hurt /silence thing, and they're dead before it can even finish casting. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was just nutty. And then he's like, "Well, let's go for the bigger ones, and I can just back you up." I'm like, "Okay." So we go to the far right room, and because double dagger throws with the explosion, right? You're talking, 7 pulls with the explosion, running through in personal aggro area, and then throwing another dagger and aggroing the rest of the room. And then I just pop poison, double caltrops, and we're out of there.
Bananas. It was just, I basically ended up just watching him and occasionally did an instant heal once in a while when it looked like he's down at half health. Maybe I'll give him a boop real quick. And I'll just follow along and collect loot and pass on the pricey stuff because he's doing all the work, really.
Granted, there was some gear there involved, that I had given myself after 15. But even like at 15 with green gear, base gear, and even the fact that gear wasn't dropping when the rogue came out in the first place, which was an awful thing.
Sorry.
I was still managing to solo that single room by myself with little to no gear.
Yeah, sorry there if you said anything I needed to respond to. My headset died real quick.
You're good.
You're good. Yeah, I didn't play rogue without gear, to be honest. I just put my ranger stuff over like right away because I was trying to get it leveled as quickly as possible. But yeah, I mean, we all know what gear was 2 weeks ago. It was silly. Like the amount of things I was doing on that thing with that type of gear was just, I'm happy the adjustments were made, but the archetype is so well built. Like there's a few tweaks, of course. Like I don't know why you need 80% of like magical evasion, for instance, but the overall play style, I feel like they hit pretty well.
So you could be a mage killer and jump in and pop your smoke bomb and annihilate them.
Yeah,
I guess.
Can't hit me.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I don't know about no one, but I have the full intention of going mage rogue mage, and just going LeBlanc, and being able to blink in, do a bunch of damage, blink out, and then watch them blow up.
There you go. Nice.
But real quick, Facade, does NZ stand for New Zealand, by the way? And while you answer that, Facade says, Rogue needs grappling hook removed. Very cool skill, but it breaks the game. Gameplay terrain advantage as a skill makes it broken. Grappling hook would be better suited as a craftable item on a cooldown that everyone can use. What do you feel about how does this make you feel?
I like grappling hook.
I do too. A lot.
I think when you look at Bard anti-grav, I don't think that there's anything that grappling hook does that Bard anti-grav does. So in that vein, like it's one of those, like, I think it makes sense. What I will say is the fact that you can trip off of the cast. I think it makes it a lot less useful in a PvP situation, which is good. Just off of that instance, which is great. I've gotten tripped from NPCs trying to get away from them, which is also good. But yeah, it's one of those. If you're going to address that, then you probably have to address anti-grav, and I could go either way on it.
What's that mean, by the way? You can trip off the cast. What's that mean?
So if you cast the grappling hook while you're in the cast, if you get attacked, like if you get hit while in it, you'll get tripped and it'll just stun you. And so then it interrupts the cast and everything. So it's like there's times in PvP where you're trying to like get distance, and well, if somebody hits you with an auto or something while you're casting, like you're just tripped, and then it ate your cooldown. So
Okay.
yeah.
What's he say here?
Okay.
The 2x grapple is
that.
kind of repeat. Yeah, he says having 2 of them with the tool belt. That is a talent point to have 2 of them. So we're taking it at a perceived loss, maybe, because we can't put that point elsewhere. However, I do agree with you, and I'm going to meet you in the middle here. There should be a longer cooldown on it.
Yeah, 9 seconds is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Facade brings up a good point that I was gonna raise up is the anti-grav takes a lot more setup and dedication because you have to actually choose multiple skills in order to even be able to have it available, and then it takes 3 whole casts at 30-second cooldown each to have it available.
Gotcha.
So the anti-grav is a lot more controlled, and I mean it's a 1.5 minute cooldown, one might say, if they're going to keep casting skills at all in order to keep some kind of well, it's not melody, what the heck was it? I forget what they call those, that top line, like the 3rd line down. I forget what they call those, but
Crescendo?
themes, I think is what it is, themes.
Yeah.
But yeah, to keep those things going, you'd have to cast the same 3 in the same order repetitively over and over.
I've played every class, and that is a class I'll never play, is the Bard. I can't.
I fucking love it. I love the tank and I love the Bard. I would love the tank more if it were more like the Bard. I would never change from those 2 ever in the life of this game. If they were to make the tank like the Bard, those would be my 2 forever.
Some cool, like, damage melody tank. I mean, you could go tank Bard.
Yeah, but I mean more like the base abilities need to have more synergy to them. They need to, and the tank needs to feel like a tank. Like I should be able to go into a fight one-on-one with almost anything. Yeah, obviously the rock, paper, scissors thing. If I'm the rock, somebody else's paper should be able to whittle me down. But against a scissors or against a rock, I should be able to live forever. I should not be killable by somebody of the same skill and gearing and enchantment, etc. I should be able to live almost forever. Basically the same thing as a cleric. Like live until their mana dies, and I would live until basically about the same length of time passes. But,
I think you're going to get your wish with the rarity changes. I think the gear
we'll see.
disparity. Yeah, the gear disparity just got way too high, way too quick with the nodes being locked into 8 and 4 hours and 2. Yeah. There was too much to grab too quick.
Yeah, I mean, the flip side of that is somebody earlier in the chat, I'm trying to remember who it was, somebody said that they can still melt people with a tank. And to me, that's a crazy statement. That's an insane statement to me. Like, I don't think tanks should be able to melt anybody. But that's just, I guess, my personal view on what a tank should be. A tank should be the one who lives a long time and can survive stuff. And they have to whittle somebody else down because they don't have, like, the killing power. But they apparently said they can melt people. I think it was maybe Wizard over in, let me see here. I'll take a peek up.
I think I remember seeing that, but and it was either Vladis or no one that mentioned that was because everyone was going strength. Everyone had just ditched getting any sort of mitigation whatsoever. Yeah. I had a tank on our server completely and totally nuke me on numerous characters because I couldn't move. You know, use my blink, he caught back up to me, and then that was it. But that was before I would play Rogue, so.
That strength build with a guaranteed crit on your sit on their face, like trip into sit, like just that shit hits so hard. It was hitting so hard at that point. So
yeah, I can imagine. Guaranteed crit, add some crit damage on your gear. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Run all heavy armor, so you get the 7-piece crit passive bonus, and you just get a little bit more burst there too. And yeah, it's some damage.
But yeah, to me, that's kind of a beyond amazing. That's just insanity, as far as I'm concerned. A tank being able to say that they can melt people. But to my to my personal class / archetype fantasy, I should be able to live forever, and it's going to take me about that long to kill somebody else. So I'm just going to have to... It's a good thing I last that long, because it's going to take me that long to slay another player. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens. There's still... I mean, they've said that they're not going to do any real class balancing and archetype balancing for a while. I know some people have... the theme of today's cast or talk was about the TTK and stat changes. And I think that this doesn't really count as class and archetype balancing. This is just gameplay environment alteration,
100%.
to be honest. Like, it's the full ambience of every situation out there, especially when everything is PvP right now. Everything can be PvP, therefore everything is PvP. It can exist at any given point. And if PvP is drastically not anywhere near what they want it to be, that needs to be adjusted. That's not a balance issue. That's a lifestyle issue.
I do have a question for Nolan, and I want to know if you saw the same thing I did. So, on the regular, back when I was just leveling rogue with standard gear, because I didn't start myself off with any gear, I kind of aimed for the after 10 area. I was able to pull that entire room on the left in Hall's Adjudication with base, gray to green gear.
Okay.
That I had just laying around. So it's not like completely gear, and it was sub 10 gear, but I was still able to pull it and maintain that level of clearing. However, then after like 15, I went and I brought the 7+ bow. We upgraded the daggers to the 10 dagger. The downside to the whole 10 dagger thing is the freaking weapon mold wasn't included yet, so you couldn't actually craft the 10 dagger, which made me big sad because I had actually all the mats ready to make a purple one.
Yep.
And then, I had a bunch of stuff from the Ranger that we put on just so we could wear it, get all gear. So we got up to about, 400, and I think it was 32 power.
Nice.
So it wasn't like... I've seen 600 people, but, it wasn't no 600, but we had hit that plane of 400 where it starts going up on an even steeper curve.
Yep.
So on the PTR, I switched over, and I didn't do the 25 thing and immediately enchant or anything like that. I went to the 15, and then I grabbed a bag of the green gear and put all that on, and I still had the same clearing path and time to kill on the mobs in the Hodge in that room. Now, granted, we're doing this on a PvE scale instead of a PvP scale, and it was the same. However, now that we've been... I'm going to call it downgraded because it really does feel like a downgrade in words of damage or DPS. I feel like I'm doing 200 backstab less, maybe more, on mobs that were once before. So do you think with the stat change where they switch it to a higher numerical value but added in those decibel points, do you think we're getting nerfed at a steeper grade as well?
So I want to say that I never did 15 on the PTR. I did the straight to 25 thing because it's been so long since I've been at 15 with like 15 level gear that it wasn't going to be a good comparison for me. So I went to 25, and like that was how I was testing things. I will say my damage against ads is substantially less. Like so I threw all my Ranger gear over, so I was just under 500 fizz power unbuffed, and like I was hitting 3k backstabs on ads, like just nonstop. And now I think a good backstab now is like 1500. Like
that's about right. Yep.
I'm like, hell yeah, like, let's go. And so but some of that is like my gear got adjusted. Like we weren't impacted nearly as badly as rogues as like mages were. I heard some mages like gear was switched over to physical gear, and so they're like in a complete overhaul of some of their sets. So but what I will say is I do think we got a substantial adjustment. That definitely our damage is quite a bit lower, but our survival's way higher, like way higher than it was before. I tanked Carfin, I tanked Grave Peak, and I'm on a rogue. Like I was, like I just do the most damage, face tank everything, and it was fine.
Yeah,
I was thinking the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Tad, just a couple things. Like from a tank point of view and my stats anyway, I noticed at least about a 30% drop in attack power. If that helps out there. Plus mitigation functioning how it should be probably means like a 40% drop almost. In actual attack results. So that would kind of follow with the numbers that you're saying there. Facada is in chat is also saying more likely mitigation on mobs is working as intended. Penetration, etc., might mean something. I can say also, in the hour and a half I had on the PTR, I fought against two rangers, and one of them went full attack power, and the other one went full penetration, and the attack power won out over penetration. So I don't know if penetration was overpowered before, and that's what was causing some issues because it's, you know, one of the waterfall stats, etc. But it's definitely not as powerful as it was before, according to the person who stacked penetration. But it was a noticeable difference. It was like a 900 damage versus 700 damage issue using just the issued gear from the bags, not even enchanted. It was just the gear from the bags. The penetration, the pure penetration aim person did far less damage. So that could also be a thing.
There's a steep fall off for penetration as damage as well. I believe it was like 21.5% is when we started seeing both for spells and for melee.
I did a bit. The only reason I bring it up is I talked about it in a video today, and I had a few people message me about the same thing. But I'm with my gear. I have like 11 over currently, like over like 11,000, closing in on 12,000 physical power rating, which means like I'm getting a decent amount of diminishing returns in phys power. So I've been trying different gear to get more damage, and one of the things I went out and I got was the bloodied ring, which provides physical penetration on the top line. Because, you know, if I can't get phys power rating, then I might as well stack into crit chance, crit power, or penetration. So I was going to try penetration, and I got the 2 rings, and I was testing against a friend, and I didn't test enough. I want to be clear with this, but putting those rings on, I did no extra damage on my friend. None. It was the exact same damage. And I know on my build I have a lot of penetration in general because I have the goblin skin stripper, which is like 3,600.
As opposed to what rings did you have on before? What was it?
The Halcyon rings. So it was just the strength, health, armor.
Okay, so you had basically attack power versus penetration.
Yeah,
so the
best. Yeah, so the Halcyon rings had 50 strength, and these penetration rings have 48 strength. So they have almost the exact same amount. So it's just health versus penetration. And there was like no difference in damage at all. And 2 strength, of course, but there was no difference in damage that I was noticing.
Oh,
and so
we figured out, by the way, just a random side tangent because the numbers that you mentioned, we did a calculation with a fairly wide spread of strength, from cleric all the way through fighter and then ranger, or not fighter, but tank and then rangers. The ranger was stacking attack power stats, including strength, and all 3, it was 50 strength to 1 attack power, like the actual final attack power stat. So not what was it? I forget the wording, because you can get like physical attack power, but then there's the smaller number that was like a 3-digit number. That one only went up by 1 for every 50 strength.
Okay. Yeah, it depends on where you're at with your overall phys power. Depends on what that number is, because it'll, like, for most people it's around 50, but as you get more and more phys power, it'll turn into like 55, 60 overall for each for the average. But you'll get to a point where putting on, like, for instance, I put on a different chess piece that was providing 1400 physical power rating, and it was 1100 net bonus, and so by that metric I should be getting 22 phys power off of that piece, because it's 1100 divided by 50, 22. But because my number was so high, I was only getting 10 because there's just such a drastic amount of diminishing returns at that point that it wasn't providing that type of value, which is why I was looking at other pieces. So I know I have high penetration on that build. The guy I was fighting, Stealth, he had 5 or 6 heavy armor Academus. So he had epic heavy Academus. He wasn't a tank. He wasn't built like a tank with mitigation rating and everything, but he was running a lot of heavy armor. And so there was no difference in damage. I will run more tests to try and compare it. I will say, I guess a bunch of other people are having similar issues. And so some people think that penetration might not be working, or it might be bugged, or I could have been overpenning as well. I don't know what it is. I just have to do more tests.
So there's definite nerfing on a curve.
Yeah. Keo had the Keo in your Discord. I see him talking. I can post this. He said I could. I posted it on my channel. But he got a bunch of people with gear. I'll send it to you, Vertic, here if you wanna look at it.
Oh yeah, please.
It's super nerdy, which you'll appreciate.
I like it.
But what he did is basically he got different builds with different physical power ratings and then input it to get their overall physical power. And so he did that up to 17 physical power rating to get that graph. And so that's what your build will look like from a physical power or from a power perspective with that much physical power rating in general as you go up.
Interesting. Okay, well, let me see if I can pop this up on the screen for some other folks to see too, just to get a decent idea.
Yeah, I figure you want to.
So does that also mean the higher armor that we go, you think it's got a reduced or diminished return on mitigation then?
Nice. So I didn't do that test. I do know Nice was messing with his tank and he was getting diminishing values for mitigation as well.
Okay.
But yeah, and I don't know it for all of them. I don't know what those numbers are. This is my nerdy test for like the next couple of weeks before phase 3 is to figure out all these breakpoints, which I'm excited about. Because I think this is a much better direction than where we were. Like having choices and then making decisions based off your build is just, it's what everybody likes, you know. Like I might want to be a tankier rogue, and Erwin here might want to have just like glass cannon, nuke everything in 2 seconds rogue. And
give me that backstab.
Yeah. You just want the backstab, and I want to be able to survive because I want to do some group v group stuff. So I want to have a little bit of that, and so because of what we're playing, we want 2 different things, and so we're going to build differently. And that's really cool. Like then our rogues are unique in that regard, which I think is very cool.
I agree. I can't wait to see the subclassing on it too. Like Mage Rogue is like, okay, do I need to build hybrid, or am I going to end up, getting some sort of poison spell power adaptation?
The poisons are so strong in that, by the way.
Oh, they're so good right now. I don't know if you could.
Oh man,
I should probably post it in the TGFT. But I took a video of just me at that level 15, 17 area, tossing poison, tossing double caltrops down, and just watching all those goblins run around the corner. And you're seeing 1,500, 2,000, stuff like that. Just stack some numbers as they're coming around.
Poison caltrops are insane.
Yeah, poison caltrops, I'm kind of like on that. I think if you're going to apply poison to caltrops, maybe you should be at 50% of the value.
Poison caltrops are insane.
I do the withering caltrops so that I can just sustain mana while I'm grinding. And like you drop the caltrops with the poison, and all of a sudden you just see that mana pool. It's like 1,000, 2,000, 2,400, 2,500. You're just like you're nonstop stack full on a rogue.
I was actually interchanging it based on who I was playing with. Like if I had a tank in the group, I was doing the withering one. But then if I had a fighter with me for cataclysm and the other stuff that they use with cold, then there goes that extra damage that they're performing as well.
So if I'm looking at this correctly, the larger numbers are going to be
Oh, Kio's in chat.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Hey there, Keo.
No, it's fine. It's fine. He posted
1600 was
it.
for interpolation purposes, but on the actual formula in game files, it's just 500x divided by x plus 200k. Okay.
Wow.
Or 20k.
So, okay, I got you at the bottom of that.
Yeah, this graph specifically, this was just inputting data. This is what he got. So we didn't know what higher physical power rating over 17,000 did. We didn't know if there's like a soft cap or a hard cap, anything like that. Like this is just a data input of switching out different gear to get higher power rating. And so it's not supposed to be like perfectly predictive, but it's supposed to show like as you get higher up in phys power rating or power rating in general, you start getting diminishing values further and further up the scale.
Yeah. So you can actually see a curve to it instead of just like the linear line or a ramp instead of a curve down.
Exactly. And so for each build, it's going to really depend on what you value, where you're at in the curve where you want to stop. You know, like if you're a fighter, you may want to stop a little bit earlier and stack more mitigation or things like that. And if you're a rogue or a ranger that's utilizing stealth or camouflage, you may just want to say, screw it, I just want the flat damage. Give me as much as possible, and you're way higher up the scale.
Oh,
Okay. And see, that actually fits kind of with what I was saying there, Keo, because we said we calculated the actual attack power output, not the rating, but the actual power output versus strength between there in the little group that I had for the hour and a half on PTR before it went to live was a cleric, which was Chibi, who obviously is not concentrating on strength whatsoever. There was tank myself, who is, you know, strength happens, but I was aiming more for like defense and constitution and more defensive stats than anything in general. And then there were two rangers, one which went full tilt attack power rating and strength, and the other one went for as much pen as possible, while including strength as the next most important stat. And between all of us, all that whole range of power or strength and attack power in general that resulted out of it, we figured out that 50 strength equals 1 attack power in the end. And I think strength gave you, each point of strength gave you, what is it, 3 or 5? I forget, attack power rating. 3 attack power rating. So yeah, 150 attack power rating per one is right about what we were seeing the entire power curve that we had.
Yep. Yeah, when I was testing on the PTR last week, it was like I put gear on and it was like the number I saw initially was like 46.6, which is a really weird number. And then they added diminishing returns. And the minute they did, people were like, yeah, your numbers are wrong. And I'm like, I know. I know. I got to work through this. Sorry, guys.
Don't yell at me.
Things change sometimes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know.
Change sometimes. My bad.
Whatever power rating that we had, we didn't experience any diminishing returns in there whatsoever. But in that entire frame, maybe it was the first day of the PTR or the second, I forget which, but it was exactly like you would think with all those weird numbers and everything involved, there'd be something like a 0.999. No, it was exactly 50 to the like exact 50.0000 strength to one attack power.
This does explain why I saw the same differences that I saw at 15 on live versus 15 on the PTR with basically the same set of gear.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and as you get higher in gear, you're going to see that value go lower. So for me, before my strength comes into play and before my food, I have around 190 fizz power right now. And so it's up 12, 13K, and you can see that it starts to flatline a little bit more. So for me there, on that part of the scale, if I start adding 1,000, 1,500, it's not 50 to 1 at that point for additive fizz power. It's more like 100 to 1 for more at that point. And then it averages out to a little over 50. And so, yeah, like what Keo's saying, when you get up to that 250 power range, like you really have to stack a lot of power rating in order to get to that value.
Yeah.
So then my thought is on this, then it's going to be really easy for them to change how steep that curve is, right? Based on the gradient of it. So if they like, oh, we need to give a little bit more to tanks on the mitigation side, they can just grab that graph and just say, okay, we're going to adjust this by 0.25, then all of a sudden it's back up. Your mitigation's back at a nicer level.
Yeah, they can really make some adjustments with just how their diminishing return system works. But I saw a lot of, I've done a few videos on this in the last couple of days talking about it, because it's such a better gear setup with diminishing returns, because it allows you to choose what's important and then what's secondary and then what's like tertiary, like what else you can fit in afterwards. Before, in the previous system, it was just literally stack waterfall stats, like as much strength as you can. If you get constitution, cool. If you get some mentality, cool. Like as much of that stuff is cool, but stack strength. And it was very, very straightforward. And now, due to diminishing returns on a few different things that we're seeing so far, it allows people to choose what they want first to a point, and then you build into your secondary stuff that you want secondary, and then it's decisions on your content you're playing and what you want out of your build, and it's a much better direction in my opinion.
Yeah. So one question with this this chart here. This was all put together based on the live server and current gearing and all that, right?
Yes. Yeah. From Thursday and Friday this last week.
Cool. Because I was gonna say, like, the numbers that we came up with were all based on the PTR, which were like gear given to us in a bag.
They might have changed. They might have changed some things also. And
that's fair.
This could be outdated.
I mean, ours could be outdated. If you graded it on the live server, we graded ours on the PTR before it went to live. So if anything, our info was outdated. But,
sure.
But yeah, ours was just based on gear in a bag. I think I tried to enchant one ring and I ended up taking it too far and it blew up. So
feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Feels good.
Hey, on PTR it's fine.
Yeah, okay. PTR didn't have diminishing returns last week.
Okay, so that's cool. Yeah, because that's the one thing we thought was kind of weird, is that it was specifically going up in a direct line. It was 50-1 no matter what with strength. But yeah, it's nice to see they got the DR in there.
And that was my concern with the PTR test. I was like, I don't know if this is enough. Like I think we might have similar issues. And then they put diminishing returns in. And so far it feels good, but I don't think there's a ton of people like super geared the way they were before. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens once everybody gets geared, enchanted, and see where all of it lies then at that point.
Once everybody gets up to level 20 gear and everyone gets that all enchanted super top.
Yeah, with the fresh start or the reset, I'm looking forward to seeing the gear disparity come out in full force.
Well, you know what's funny though is because there's only like the dedicated few on right now, like we're going to see the standout stats, because some people have a pile of money that they can just spend on stuff and they're going to blow it all to get their gear to now the new best, which is going to be, if they can get it made legendary or equivalent or close to it. Well, the animal fat's holding everybody back, so we can only get up to what, epic at this point because of the animal fat.
Yeah, until they change how those molds are crafted.
So sure, getting the epic level 20 stuff and the enchanting scrolls for that off people who are willing to spend mayor bucks on buying those and putting them on the market.
That was the other thing. Our stonemasonry bench was broken in Aethanar, so.
Oh no, that's no good at all.
It was definitely no good.
But yeah, you'll see the dedicated few that get level 20 epic gear all tuned the heck up, and or some, because what is it, like some bows and such. Some items can actually be crafted up to legendary because they don't require fat for like a weapon mold.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have legendary greatsword and bow right now. There's some stuff you can do in legendary depending on your crafter's rating. You can get by with like heroic fat or sometimes rare fat depending on how much of the other stats are available.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Let's get the rare fat and somebody with like 9 zillion quality rating.
Well, not to mention we have, processing. You can use different levels of gear and processing here soon.
Yeah, that's going to be the
fingers
big one.
crossed. Yeah.
Well, when that happens, you're going to see a lot of higher level gear come online.
And being able to process less than just the specific buckets of numbers. Oh, that'll be amazing.
I only heard it mentioned in whispers too, but we're also supposed to get a rarity crafting XP increase, which we don't have now.
Okay.
So you go and you craft blue thread, you're getting a higher XP rating for crafting it, but not for crafting a blue piece of gear.
Sure. Makes
So
sense.
that should also help the leveling process. We might even see some lower tier newbie blue gear, 10 blue gear, stuff like that get out there a bit more so, especially, you know, with the gatherables fall off. Or so I hope.
Man, all I know is it's exciting times. It's exciting times. I was really sad, and I parked my tank for a while because of that TTK issue. And there's progress being made. This is a great first step in the right direction. Feels good. Feels better. It's going to feel amazing in the long run. So
I'm stoked that I'm actually getting to play the game in the time that I'm alive.
yeah, right.
It was dicey there for what, 8 years?
Oof. Man, but yeah. Things are moving forward well. As a random reminder, remember everybody, toss in your input on the surveys if you have not yet, or the survey if you have not yet. It is present on Steven's official Giga thread on gear, etc. I'm gonna actually put that right here.
Was this that Reddit? I keep hearing
Yeah,
about.
this is the Reddit one that Steven posted up, and it has a link to the survey, as well as suggestions on how to test out things, see how they feel differently, and put some of your feedback from said testing. Do it. But right about meow, I do believe it might be just about time to start tapping out. Unless either one of you, I'm still open to hang out. If you two have a burning question or desire to talk about something specific that is really itching at your brain.
I think I got most of my itches out. I hate to keep everyone here for any bit longer without any, like, you know, necessarily new material to talk about.
Yeah, because I know we ran out through every single topic that we had originally set out to talk about to the nth degree, and I just would hate to keep people here if we're just repeating the same kind of discussion. Plus, also, I got to start getting ready to wind down and do the bed thing too.
Yeah. I will tell no one that as much as I wish I could be there tomorrow to help you test, since it does seem like they are going to open the PTR tomorrow, I have been told to go into work tomorrow, so...
Oh no!
Oh, that sucks, man.
Yeah. Not because of, you know, disciplinary issues or playing video games while I'm working or anything like that. It's it's like the work meeting day.
Oh, I love those. I love those. Yeah, those are like my entire week anymore these days. It's crazy. I'm like, yeah, sure. Next week I can totally be on Tuesday, and then Monday comes around and they're like, by the way, we have 3 meetings you need to attend tomorrow. You gotta be kidding me.
Computer nerd speak. They just put out a whole bunch of CMMC recommendations to go FIPS compliant for all devices. So my life is going to become busy.
Enjoy that. If it makes you feel any better,
That's
I just
fun.
got done doing, over the course of the past year, completed 2 CMMC audits. Successfully, I might add. Yeah.
Good. Good
It's
God.
fun. It's good stuff. Yeah. Actually, I think the company I work for was actually within the first 10 to apply for and successfully complete the CMMC process. It was actually a joint surveillance with the Gov peoples. It was fun.
The old government.
Yeah, them government peoples.
Yeah.
But you know, it took all the
Well,
way
you know what
till
I do,
this
Noah?
year to get
What
the
do you-
certificates.
What does no one do for work?
What's your day job, sir? that says it all. That says it all. It's exhausting. That's what it is.
Yep.
I play poker professionally.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah? Shoot,
Yeah.
that is my weak point in life. I can't play poker to save my life.
Oh, well, I can help you out.
I'm horrendous. I am horrendous at poker. I played penny games with my grandparents before, and I think they let me win more often than not, and I would leave the table with $1 once in a while.
Oh, what was that?
Time.
What was that shooters game that we got you to play finally, Vertek? Shooters Bar. No.
Oh, yeah,
Liar's Bar.
Liar's Bar. Oh, yeah. That was great. Have you played that yet? No one?
I've heard of it. I don't think I've played it.
It's totally an indie game, but it's so much fun. You get in there with a group of friends, and yeah. Hey, Stealth, if you're heading to bed, you have yourself a great night as well. If you're not heading to bed yet, we're looking to see if we can raid over to somebody. If you have a recommendation, I don't think there's anyone else in the Ashes category right now. There wasn't an hour and a half ago when last I looked. Nope, just us. We're the only ones here. But probably bring us over to either Wicca Sloth or Turgo Live. One of them there too.
Nice.
Turgo Live's a fun guy. Random games and such. Wicca is looking to be much more involved in the Ashes community once it goes more into phase 3. He doesn't want to dive into it now just because of how much iteration there's going to be. But either way, cool folks. Turgo's very hype and Wicca's very chill. Exact opposite sides of the spectrum. It's crazy. But okay, so if we're looking to start heading out, did either of you have any closing comments? Any final words that you would like to share?
Well, thanks for having me. Good discussion.
Great discussion, yeah. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it was a great time. Thank you for hopping on, both of you. Noah, I know you do the content creation thing. If you could, please do share it with everybody anywhere they can catch you and potentially win.
So I mostly just post videos on YouTube at the moment. I occasionally stream on Twitch, but it's been a few months. I need to get back to doing that. But yeah, I do mostly Ashes content on YouTube. You could just do YouTube, no one, just written as it's right there on the screen, and you'll be able to find me. Talk about all things nerdy and Alpha 2 related, whatever catches my attention, whatever discussions happening at the time I'd like to talk about, because yeah, love this shit. So heckin'
yeah. And Erwin, you don't do the content creation stuff, so I'm just gonna say that Erwin is another fellow member of Nexus. Good guy. You'll always hear him every time he pops in. There's going to be a beer being cracked. You're gonna hear it. It's gonna be loud, and it's going to be refreshing.
It is always refreshing.
But let me go ahead and get this raid here started here before I say my final words. And I think we're going to head on over to Turgo because he's playing Skull and Bones, which fits right with that naval combat we were talking about earlier. Pow, pow, pow. All right. So thank you everybody for hopping in. As always, just know that your time is never refundable. Once it's spent, it is gone. You do not get partial credit. You do not get refunds. You cannot ask for return, no matter how defective our product may be. So thank you for spending your time here. It's your most valuable currency. We always appreciate it, and we hope it was worth it. But either way, until we catch you next time, which should be Friday. Oh wait, no, Saturday. Catch you Saturday. We'll talk to you then. Take care, everybody. Bye.